3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin the Racin.
Brought to you by OMG Racing, JCT Truck and Trailer Hire, and we have Bennetts, and the message is brought to you by our co-host Josh Corner. How we doing, son?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, and obviously Bennetts are still with us, part of the pod. The Bennetts experiences, which we've obviously spoke about before, they are going to be happening again this year.
Brilliant.
Rounds 3 and 4 of the British Championship are live now, so you can book for rounds 3 and 4. Obviously, I think you can still book rounds 1 and 2. I think there's still spaces available. Amazing experiences, the pit perch experience, the garage experience, and also like they do some stuff trackside as well. If you're a Bike Social member, get involved or get signed up on the website. Great opportunity.
Brilliant. And our episode sponsor, which kind of ties us off lovely into our guest here.
Yeah, so the episode sponsor for this one is Oliver's Mount Racing, yes. I think for a second, yeah. Oliver's Mount Racing. So Andy Hayes and his team have come on board for this one, which is really nice because we're actually sat at Oliver's Mount Race Circuit at this very moment.
Totally on the piss, by the way. So I think everyone's just leaning into each other, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to introduce our guest. The best thing to come out of Wales since Catherine Zeta-Jones, Ian Lougher. How the devil are we?
Very good, thanks. Yeah, good.
Have you ever been compared to Catherine Zeta-Jones before?
No, I think we're a different shoe size, but maybe Tom Jones. I'm not sure.
I love it. You see, I put that in power order: Catherine Zeta-Jones, Ian Lougher, then Tom Jones is 100% in that power. But I tell you what, it's an exciting because we are here at Oliver's Mount, and we had a little bit of pre-crack prior, but you two are racing here.
Yes.
It's your first time.
I was actually wondering on the way up here, I didn't know if you were riding or not, or just running the team.
We will get into that into a lot of detail, but he's in a different class. There's a hint for our listeners, but we'll go into that because I've raced Ian here in the Super Twin class, but he's here Dyson with a different flavour this time, and I'm generally looking forward to getting involved in that. But before we go down that route, how are you feeling about leading into it?
I'm excited. It's actually a very weird feeling. So you know yourself normally going to a race meeting, you know what to expect, you know actually who you're going to be racing typically as well. And I was driving here thinking, I actually haven't got a clue what to expect. And in a way, it's scary, but in a way, it's also very nice because I feel there's very little expectation of me this weekend. It's the first road race I'll have done. It's the first time here. Still pretty new with the R6 and the team and everything. So I'm really excited, and I'm just looking forward to enjoying riding around here. I've been a spectator for a lot of years, so excited to get around.
Now, you've obviously, I think, are you still the outright win lap record holder? Is that, I probably said that wrong.
Wins. Yeah. It's something like 140 something now. I don't know.
He knows fine well what the number is.
I don't actually.
It's 141,
I know it's
Dominic.
140 or something. But yeah, no, I've been coming here since 1985. So 39 years. So I've been here just about every year, I think, except for COVID and foot and mouth in 2001. So
bloody hell, foot and mouth.
It's a long time, isn't it?
So now you've got Josh's reaction of his first time. How do you feel about going in tomorrow?
A little bit different. Obviously, I know this track well, but there's not a sort of line around it. It's just hairpins and whatever, you know? Well, there is a couple of places, the Memorial, that sort of thing. But it's I'm riding a CBR 600, which is one of our team bikes, owned by TMLR with Frog Vehicle Developments, which is Mark Coverdale, basically.
What a gentleman he is.
Yeah, he's a great sponsor. He's fantastic. I'm riding the 600, so it's the first time I've ridden the CBR 600 in 2 years. This is one of the new bikes, but they came out in beginning of 21, and I haven't ridden here on a 600 since 2013. So it's 11 years. But it didn't feel like it. It's just the thing of getting older, I suppose. You just feels like it was yesterday.
You're not old for a start, hold on. It's just you may you may have something on your birth certificate, but you're not. I've had the privilege of racing with you, and you race like a 21-year-old discovering boobs for the first time. You just ride like a madman. I love it. But tell you what, quickly going in the technical side, when did what year was it when they changed? Sorry, when they stopped allowing thousands to race here?
I think there was a bad crash in 2017. Was it?
It was the Billy Redmayne incident, wasn't it? Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, maybe after. No, it was after that. Because it was a crash. I think it was Jamie Coward, was it? Crashed at the top of that is it Mount Side they call it? I don't know.
Yeah.
And he went straight on and bike cartwheeled and
into
whatever.
the crowd. Yeah,
That's right. I think it was stopped after that, which was 2017, I think, 17, I think.
Because it went for, so they restricted the classes. So the now premier class, the fast class, is the 600 class. So you're in the the top class for the thing. So when you they brought that rule in. What was your opinion on that?
I thought it was great.
Really?
Yeah, to be honest, 1,000 is too much. I always thought it was too much. We were talking about it earlier, to be honest, and in the team, and it's just the fact with 1,000, the speed's almost identical. Really, lap times, but with 1,000 they get out of control because of the torque. You lean back a little bit, next minute the thing's in the air wheeling, and then you lame trying to grab it over the front, and the throttle goes back and then you're gone. With a 600 they're a bit more revvy, aren't they, and easier to control.
But it's definitely brought my opinion on it, the little that people care about it, but you corner harder on a 600. The racing element of it is actually arguably
closer because you got slower speed to pass and stuff.
100%. The grid is smaller, but no, I think if they didn't make a change, Oliver's Mount wouldn't exist. And I think I totally agree on that side of things. But it has brought mass entertainment, being able to come here, because you're thinking, my giddy aunt. This weekend, I'm trying to think of the grid now that I generally am over it. I'm gutted I'm not going to be here watching it now, because watching you on a 600, you've got your hands full, Josh.
I don't think we'll be. I don't think
have to watch for me at the back somewhere.
I don't think we'll be anywhere near. Yeah.
What I know.
The other way around.
I do not believe it for a second at all. But I tell you what, we're going to go down more political. Obviously, talk about the side of super sport changes. You're very much involved. You've got running your own team. There is so much to talk about. But what I would like to go back at the beginning with is, what was life like for Ian Lougher before motorcycles?
I can't really remember much before motorcycles. Motorcycles has been my whole life. I've been doing it for racing since 1982. So 42 years, is it? 42 years. So I've sort of dedicated my life to it. It sounds a bit daft or something, but no, I've just always enjoyed it and I always put 100% into it.
Was that since you got locked up? For what? for what? Don't play innocent, or it's basically just the magistrates discovered that he had a talent on a motorcycle and he just rolled with it. That's what he's done.
Turn the police off and things like that, and then get chases and then get them to chase me and turn around and go the other way. Then they'd have to back after me and all that sort of thing. So yeah, they didn't like that much really.
So whereabouts in Wales are you from then?
From South Wales. Yeah, it's a little place called Bonvilston in the Villa Glamorgan. Just outside Cardiff, about 10 miles outside Cardiff.
Right.
And it's a nice part of the world, lovely. But
great for racing by the sounds of it.
Yeah, but I've been living in Northern Ireland now since 23 years, is it?
Right.
23 years, yeah. I was riding for Taz Suzuki. TAS, Taz Suzuki.
Yeah,
so, and that took me over there and in between relationships, should we say, and stuff, and a bit of water in between was probably not a bad idea. I don't know. And I was living in a caravan then.
Yeah.
So for, I don't know how long, 6 months or something, and then, so that's what, But Wales was great, but I went to the Welsh Sports Personality of the Year once, and they asked me to come along after an ex-sponsor of mine pushed him and said, why no motorcyclists? Why always rugby? And I went there and didn't even get called up on stage or anything. It was just it's just motorcycling. And unfortunately, it's looked on, especially in Wales, as being a what's motorcycle sort of thing,
Yeah.
So, and rugby is so high regard, unless you've got a rugby ball, then nobody knows what you.
No one cares.
Since I went to Northern Ireland, then
the opposite.
Little old ladies come up and say, "Hey, what are you doing?
There's my number, Ian."
It's amazing, isn't it?
But leading that sports personality, where were you in your career at this point? Were you winning TTs? Were you winning Southerns? Were you winning?
Well, this was in 2004, I think, 5, and I remember walking in behind Joe Calzacchi, the boxer guy, and his missus and that, and they sort of went, they show you a ticket or whatever, and he went that way, and I'll show you a ticket, and one was a white ticket, one was a black ticket, and he said, what colour ticket? And I went, I don't know, whatever colour it was, I can't remember. He said, "Oh, you're that way." So we went into this canteen, we had a cup of coffee and stood around for about 5 hours. Nothing else happened. And the other people went that way. I had a sit-down meal and everything, and all called up on stage. And the next bit, Chaz Davis came in, because I knew Chaz when he was 13, 14 when he first started out. And he comes in and we're chatting away for about an hour, and next minute this guy comes up, where's your ticket? And he had one of the other tickets. You should be in next door, sort of thing. So off Chaz went, and that was it, so just how it is. But anyway, I waited there till 11 o'clock or something. We weren't going, not even an interview or anything. So I ended up saying sod that. So I didn't go, never got invited back or anything. It was just pointless. Because I was living in Northern Ireland by the stage. I only won 6 TTs by that point, and never had to mention anything. And still, that's how it is in Wales, It's just, it's just, my next door neighbour didn't even know anything, so it's just how it is.
Mind you, I can imagine 2 Strokes revving up every day. You're Neil and you fine well who you bloody were. I'm telling you that for a fact. Like
that's
that.
True,
There's bloody Ian again.
So when you started racing, then what was it short circuits or straight to road racing, or?
No, I didn't even know what road racing was. I just wanted to be a Barry Sheen, that was for me. That was Barry Sheen at that stage was he was still racing. He stopped in about 84. I started in 82. But he was just an icon. He was icon for the next 30 years, really.
Yeah.
He probably still is.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't interested in road racing, to be honest. And it was there was a guy who helped me a lot in the beginning called Clive Watts, and he helped me a lot, give me a van, but I had to go and, after finish work, go and rub the coaches down. He had a coach business, with fiberglassing and all that sort of stuff every night, and then he'd allow me to repair my bike, which is smashed up every week because I was crashing. I was winning or crashing,
Yeah.
And
I've just got this great image of the buses being shot.
Just in my hair. I had hair then as well.
The bike would have been immaculate, and all the other products would have been shite because he's more looking at his bike, getting that ready to go.
No, it was a case I smashed the fairing up every weekend. I crashed every weekend, and he used to come back and he used to go, right, how do you get on? Oh, I had 3 wins and I crashed. Like, oh, right, okay. Right, let's have a look at the bike. Ooh, right, and get the fairing off. Same fairing, nobody could afford it in those days to buy a fairing. They were probably £90, and your wages were £80 for the week. So you repair it, make it good again. And it was heavy as anything, there's so much filler in it. And he'd say, right, what we got on the shelf? Red, white, or blue? Oh, I said, I'll have blue this week. So we painted blue, and that's how it went on. That was just normal. I think a lot of people did. It's just. And then anyway, so he introduced me then to a guy called Ray Cowles, who was a fantastic sponsor. He sponsored so many people over the years. Probably sponsored 30, 40 people. He likes of Steve Hislop, myself, Robert Dunlop. Selwyn Griffiths back in the day, Jason Griffiths, load of people, like a lot of people. John Hartle, going back to the 60s. Ray was known as like matchless, the king of the matchlesses, getting them going quick, to rival the Nortons and all that sort of thing. So Ray helped me a lot, and so that was. And then he said, I just wanted to ride a 250 on British Championships, but I would only afford a TZ 350, and but going to the Manx, and I said, where's that? I didn't even know where it was, and he said, it's the Isle of Man, and I was right, and he said, we're going to the Manx. I said, oh, okay, whatever, yeah, and then I'll buy you a 250 Honda next year or whatever, because they were just coming out. This was 85, so this was 83. I went to the Manx. I said, yeah, okay, whatever. So we went, and I finished 3rd behind Steve Hislop was 2nd, and Robert Dunlop was 1st. And Ian Newton stopped the first lap, I think. There was Jim McDonnell in it, and Keith Nichols. He was a real good. There was a load of people that one year. It was just there was a load of.
What was that? The newcomer year for all
newcomers? Yeah.
What 84?
83 it was.
You could not have asked for a worse newcomer year.
I know. Yeah. I did 103. Robert did 105, and Hislop did 102.
Sorry, which bag was this?
TZ 350.
TZ 350, 103.
Yeah, and the lap record then was only 108, 110 or something.
Shut up, man.
So it was quite quick, Yeah, it was good for a newcomer. I think the fastest lap in the main race was 105, 106.
And when you got there, did you just think, oh, this is different because it's not got.
To be honest, it didn't blow me away at all because I was so used to going narrow roads in Wales.
Yeah.
You know, burning the cops off and all that, and you know, doing my own thing. And I was so used to just doing that, it came sort of naturally to me to ride on the roads.
Yeah.
But then I just wanted to get back to the short circuit stuff. But then after that, then it sort of went on, and then ended up, you know, me and Ray sort of went our separate ways, if you like, and then we got back together later on in, you know, 5-6 years later. But in that time, then I was doing British Championships, and I did British Championships for 17 years, I think. But people look at me as just a road rider, you know. I always loved, you know, my best was a second in the Winter 5 British Championship in '98. I lost it by 2 points. Chris Palmer beat me.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Not that I can remember it much.
I just watched.
I can remember every single lap.
I just watched a video of you at the TT in 1990, and his on 250s. And Newton and his lot were in that as well. Newton broke down in that one as well. Funny enough, on his Aprilia, and it was class. Watching it back, I was just thinking like how. That's the best race of my life. You know, it was to beat Steve Hislop, one of the other man, is unbelievable. Not only that, he was he never won the 250 or the junior. Was that your first TT win?
It was. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We weren't even. Sorry again. We weren't even here. Jesus.
No, it's crackers in it. I know. It just feels like I remember everything about it. You know, and there's a real story to it as well because we both started in the Manx together. We became friends because Ray Cowles sponsored Steve's brother called Gary.
Right. Okay.
And he won the newcomers race the year before.
And this is in the Manx, yeah.
The Manx in '82 then.
Yeah.
And then a month after, or less than a month, 2 weeks afterwards, they went to Silloth, the Scottish. It's right on the borders, right next to Cumbria and
Silloth,
and they used to race there, and the Scottish Championship used to be part of that. And he high-sided and banged the back of his head and he was killed. He was only doing 20 mile an hour.
Really?
Yeah, and then Steve told me about it. I remember him telling me like it was yesterday about this brother got killed. Oh, bloody terrible. Yeah. He think he had a soft skull, he said, and all this, all that. Anyway, so we became friends, and then we started then doing the British Championships together. We used to park together and, you know, go on the lash together and, you know, make Barbie and, you know, that's the way it was in those days, you know, and then. So when we had like a transit van each or a Toyota Hiace or whatever, no awnings even, you know, just like a Save the Children awning, you know, just a
Save the Children awning.
Just one of them ones, you know. And you make the awning out of the back of the van. If you had one of them doors that went up like that,
that's it.
Wow, that was great. Like there's no rain getting on your bike or yourself. Like, you know, it's just
that was considered factory then.
Yeah, that was factory.
Barn door.
Yeah, that's right.
Tailgate.
Yeah. So and then anyway, going back to the other story. So we used to park next to each other, and then and then Steve then 87 won the Formula 2 race, I think was the Manc at TT, and then following year he got taken on by Honda, so he became a factory rider, and I was still, you know, trudging away, you know, money, you know, it's like, no, can't afford the tyres, can't afford the...
What were you doing for a living, you know, to fund this, you know, as a privateer?
I was a tractor mechanic, first of all, agriculture engineer. Then then I went to work with my dad and my brother. I was working on building sites as a hod carrier, basically. I was as fit as whatever, those days. And then I went as a lorry driver after that. So I was doing that So when I won my first TT, I was a lorry driver, and 2 days after, I was back driving my lorry, and I bought the motorcycle news on the way to work, sort of thing, and I got in, you know, how do you get on your holidays in the Isle of Wight, they said. You what? How do you get on your holidays in the Isle of Wight? And that was, because it's in Wales, you see. Yeah. I just sort of like Cardiff, and I said, Isle of Man, I'm on holiday. Oh, wasn't it? Oh, here's your notes. Get going, sort of like. Right, okay. So I'm driving on. I stopped then. I looked at the newspaper. There's me on the front cover. And I think, unknown hero, stunned stars or something. Down almost 118 or 250. And I was, what? Was that me? Is that really me? Oh, I better keep driving. You know, that was me driving again after 2 days.
118.
Yeah. It was just an unreal story, really. Yeah.
And what year was this?
1990.
I've done 119, and that's now.
On a 600?
No.
On a 250?
On a 600, have a word with yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, I was thinking what you're on about. But
No, on a 250. I did that on a TSR. Like John Chapman, you know John Chapman, you've done his, you've ridden his MVs and stuff like that, but no, I did 119 on one of those. That's not, wow, hold on. 1990 you were banging out.
Yeah, I know. The lap record was 114 dead, and it was Eddie Laycock. So Eddie Laycock was, to me, who I ride for now at the Classic, I was going to say the Classic Manx, whatever they call it now. Junior Manx, is it? Lightweight Manx.
Oh, and them lovely Yamahas he's got them too.
Yes, you and Mike Brown got on the podium at the same time, didn't you, at the Classic TT?
Yeah. So Eddie was third in that race. Steve was second, I was first, and it was Eddie's lap record. So it was no slouch of a lap record, 114 dead, and we took it to 117.8. So it was 38 seconds we took off a lap record. That's the second a mile, isn't it? I know, it's mad, isn't it? But we were both doing European Championships, you say, British Championships, European Championships, and like Steve was, of course, factory rider, you know, qualifying pole, qualifying third, and so on like that. And I didn't do a full season, I did a handful of rounds, but he was better than me on short circuits, and certainly probably better than me on roads as well, you know, in the bigger bikes, absolutely. But I was still sort of, you know, like, again, doing it still out of the back of a van sort of thing. But it gives you determination and gives you, like, I want that sort of thing, you know. And we'd been friends and still friends. We were still friends. But and then I was like almost failing to qualify at the European Championships. And then when we got to the roads, it was just easy. It was so easy compared to everybody else. It pushes you on that much.
Yeah.
You know, like it'll be interesting to see how Rory Skinner gets on this year, because it makes you ride that hard to be up there. You know, it's like going back to club racing. It feels you can just beat people easy. You know, when you've done British Championships, that's how it felt to us. We were just on another level. You know, it was just like every corner was like we were at Jerez or somewhere. Yeah, it was just mad. Isn't it?
But like prior to that though, 114 mile an hour lap. Now that's like me getting on John's M1000 RR and going, I've got to beat 136 mile an hour. This is
similar, isn't it?
That is exactly what we're talking about here. You've done 114 to 118 in 1990.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
What? How?
Yeah,
I
know. Even I can pinch myself now sometimes. You know, and the hardest thing is though the next year and the year after that, and then as soon as you don't do it, people go, "Oh, it was a one-off."
It was a one-off,
and then you've got to be mentally strong. Because it took me another 6 years to win my next TT. That was the hardest part of my life, you know, because that is hard. People talking behind your back and smiling and giving jabs. That bike was big bike, or it was this, or it was that. And you know, I had the thing at the time they said that was running on blue gas. That bike, you were allowed blue gas. Blue gas in the time was like 110 octane or whatever it was. You know, you were allowed it anyway. So Islop was on it. I wasn't. I bought mine from Cardiff Airport at Avgas, you know, which is what we run on now.
Yeah.
So you're allowed it. It was about 2 years after that they stopped allowing it, you know, because it was very expensive anyway. But we never ran on it.
But you know, like, you know, you're talking about a win now at lap times. Were you all consistently banging out the 18s, or was it quite?
No. The first lap we did, I think, was almost 114 off the line. We were never with more than 3 seconds apart. And they made a big thing about Steve's bike because he's mechanic. Because in those days it was like a screw-on cap. We both had screw-on caps. Nobody had thought about putting it was the following year we designed a cap that we did a flip-up cap, you know, like a Monza cap.
Yeah, I was about to say, have you designed the Monza cap?
Well, I didn't design it, but I had the idea about it, the flip-up one. And
on the 250,
the guy in the Yellow Man made it while we were there, like.
Right.
Yeah. And anyway, so they made a big thing about all won and lost on because his mechanic dropped the cap, but it didn't go. It sort of dropped just down like that, and they had to pick it up again and go again. But my brother was doing mine, but he cross-threaded mine. But of course, you're naive and green, so you don't know how to tell people about it. You just shut up. So he had to take mine off and go back again, you know. So it was a similar thing.
He
really
dodged that really well. No. What were you actually saying to your brother at that point?
Yeah.
I bet they were like, "You fucking."
Yeah.
Hey, we've all been there at the TT pit stop. Adrenaline is high. I bet you wanted to have a swing at him at that point.
Well, no, he's. I was going to say he's bigger than me. He's not. He's smaller. I'm the tallest in the family, man. 5'6", but no, he's older than me anyway. So yeah.
So when did you first come to Scarborough? Oh, you said that.
Yeah,
you said
85 it was. Yeah. Steve, again, we were part together, and Steve got his first win in 86. That was Steve Islop's first national win ever.
Was it really?
In Scarborough, yeah. And we both didn't like riding, yeah.
What a stat that
because the
is.
TZ 350s were... It was before you put fan bends in. So you used to come over that last jump, you'd be up in the air, and then you land, and then you've got the fence where the house is. There was no fan bends then. It was flat out.
Straight through.
It was fifth gear down through there. So it was quick, like, and not only over the jumps as well, those bikes didn't handle, like, you know, the TZ 350s in those days, you know, long, you've seen the length of the shocks on a TZ. Well, those days, nobody rebuilt shocks or anything, you know. Like, and that's another thing I was thinking too recently. You know, like we were saying about the 250s in 1990, nobody put an Olin shock or anything on it. They were standard shocks, standard forks. Not upside down forks even, you know, anything. Nobody changed the springs even. It was unreal, you know. There were no dynos, so nobody went to the dyno and got more power. There were no dynos then. It was amazing.
You
like,
just
just rode it, you screwed it in, thought, I've always been the one that bounced in on the shocks and that. All right, I could maybe do a harder spring or something. You could get a spring, but that was about it, you know.
Class.
So, yeah, it's just amazing. Really.
Do you think
Class.
that... Because it's like a different generation now, isn't it? And like lots of people are just not involved in the maintenance or running of their bikes at all. Do you think that had a big... so being able to look after your own bike and do that sort of thing, do you think during that period had a big advantage on your career? Yeah.
I think because I like, especially with suspension, so I like to think about the physics of it, what it's doing. And... You know, with the engine side as well, I've always been able to work on 2-strokes and stuff. Not so good on 4-strokes, but I've always worked on 2-strokes. And I think it teaches you a lot, and it makes you mechanically...
Sympathetic,
yeah. You know, even now with the 4-strokes, you know, just hanging on to the clutch a little bit when you come down into a first gear hairpin or something, just to not lock the wheel and stuff, you know, whereas a lot of riders, because obviously I work with, you know, a lot of younger riders now with a team and stuff, and we have been doing a lot of PSPs, not doing so much now, but you just say, hang on to the clutch a bit, you know, when they had a clutch. Now they got auto blip and everything. But when you had a clutch, you just, what do you mean? Well, you just hanging on to it so that you don't go bang, 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 you know, so the engine then go, you know.
It's funny that,
you know, so.
We had I work for Norton and we were with... Long story short, we're out for dinner the other night and just this week, and we're chatting to some of the technical guys. You know, Brian Gillen, he was at MV for a long time. He's at Norton now. He's like the most interesting guy I'll ever talk to. He's so good. And
no offense to you.
No, not in that. He just has all these. He's a great guy, very passionate. And we were chatting and one about engine braking and stuff, and we said, like, you know, kids now, because they don't ride 2-strokes, so what's the like universal way to say I would like more or less engine brake, and you're like, more 4-stroke or more 2-stroke. Like, how do they communicate that now? Because they wouldn't have ever ridden 2-strokes.
Yeah.
And like we've talked about this for about 45 minutes. Thinking, like, what are they saying?
Yeah, it definitely teaches you. I think if you had in those days, like I remember doing a European Championship at Donington, 89 it was, and I was riding against Caparossi. So in those days, like, you know, I had one set of tyres for the meeting sort of thing. You know, we couldn't afford anything else. You know, he turns up with a truck and 4 mechanics and 2 bikes, and you go in, right, and he used to have a little neckerchief around his little, in the beginning, little neckerchief, and he was, you know, he's tiny, and he won the race, and we were on the way home. I finished 18th, I think, and which wasn't bad, you know, because out the back of a van on your own, and my brother on one side, and we're driving on my mate, and we were looking at each other and driving. We were all thinking the same thing. We looked at each other like, how did he do that then? What? Well, he's 16. How did he drive to the meetings on his own? You know, because we had to pass a test when he was 17. I was quite young starting. I was 18. I was quite young in those days. How did he pass it? How did he get to the meetings? His dad must have taken him. You know, we had none of that concept of anybody, certainly in this country, would ever started before...
You could drive.
Yeah. You know, so we were like, how did he get there? What year did he start? He's just won the European Championship when he's 16.
Mad.
Did he ever get to the
15
bottom of
or
that?
16, because the following year I think he won the World Championship. Yeah, it was either the following year or the year after that he won it.
Straight
90 or
into
91.
250 or 125.
125s. Yeah. But he was like Team Italia or whatever, like top stuff and top people behind you,
What age did he start then? Do you know? Did he ever get to the bottom of that?
I don't know his story, no. No, he probably started with little mini bikes, but in this country there was no mini bikes, nothing.
No,
but if
that was later on, really. That wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's a good point, though. It's a bit like it all seems like such a modern thing that you've got to be world champion at 6.
I know. But I hate that thing, and people say, "Oh, yeah, yes, because you're old." And no, I didn't. I think it's a man's sport, and I'm going to offend a lot of people now when I say this.
I agree. I'll offend them with you. I totally agree.
Because you put in somebody. It's like a monkey giving a monkey a machine gun, isn't it? It's like, you've got to be a bit sensible. They're 120 mile an hour bike, an RS125, should we say, or a Motor 3. It's 130 mile an hour bike.
Yeah, easy.
You could hurt somebody else, and yourself. And you got like 12-year-olds running around. You think about it, really. It's a bit, I shouldn't say that, but like a lot of people.
No, we've talked about that a lot on here because for that reason, also you get worn out.
I think it's a man's sport. When you hurt yourself, you get to learn what is hurt, don't you?
Yeah.
And then you step back a bit. Oh, hang on a minute now. Put the hand in the fire or whatever. You break your wrist and your bones are sticking out and you think, oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
And it just gives you that little bit of a check, doesn't it? When you're riding your bike, you think, going up the inside here, on a 6th gear or whatever. Yeah, you have to have a little bit of sense, and I'm accused of being too old or something, but that's my thoughts on it.
I really agree with that. I think I've noticed recently that, so I've raced from being 6 to 18 and then had a break for a few years, still rode bikes and stuff, but haven't raced competitively for a few years, was working for teams and stuff, and now it's like, why did I know what I know now then? That I almost needed a few years off. I stopped for lots of reasons, but now I look at it and I feel more prepared, even though I haven't been racing, as silly as that sounds. You're maturer, you kind of understand what not to do, what you should do. Times when you would have had a stupid crash that you really didn't need to do, now you think about it, or it's hard to explain what I mean, but it just feels like it's helped.
Would the sport be better if it had an older, it had an age cap? Meaning, so for example, this scenario, you have to be 18 before you can go road racing. No mini bikes, no nothing. You know what I mean? Would the sport be better? Would it be evolved? Would it be? Yeah,
well, I think in Ireland, I think you've got to be 18 of you before you.
To do a road race.
To do a road race.
I think so. Yeah,
I think so. You can go be at least 18.
I think you do. Yeah.
I get what you're saying, and I agree.
Scenario,
the scenario. I agree to a certain extent, but there's two arguments, isn't there? Because you could say that if you're given the equipment in the right way at an early enough age, that it could make you safer. But
good point.
I do think there should be done more to protect young kids, because it's not. Look, I've never seen a motorbike kill anyone, but other way around. I'll rephrase that. I've never seen a gun kill anyone, but I've seen a man pull a trigger and kill someone. It's not the thing. It's not the bike that's dangerous, right? It's the people.
This is South Shields. It's rough.
But you know what I mean. So I think that you get put in at a young age. You get put into these very high pressure situations on something that's already very dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's not it's fine to ride bikes. We all love them, and I think why not?
I think there's a lot of pressures as well now. When I was coming through, there was no learning the circuit. You couldn't learn the TT circuit. You just watched the Joey Dunlop film that came out in 1982. The V4 for Victory, was it? V4 for Victory was it called? And you watched that, and it was crap really when you look at it now compared to, but at least it give you an idea
of where it went. There
was no newcomers, nothing. You just went off down Bray Hill. You had your orange jacket on, and that was it. So, but now these days you got the pressure. I feel with social media, the younger people, they got so much pressures of you get a new set of leathers or this or that or this sponsor. Oh, you're going to go well. You go out there and win, and so it must feel. I didn't have all that because it was just your mum said bye, and off you went to Sned in your van sort of.
Did your own thing, and
so there was never any sort of pressure really. It was quite nice in that way, really. But
there is a lot to be said for that, I think. 100%. You're right. Especially social media and stuff. It only takes the odd comment to turn your mindset the wrong way.
Pushed on, yeah.
But is it? It's an interesting concept, that, because it's when I learned it, it's like you say with YouTube and everything, there is that element of you have to be quick straight away. Is it not safer to just go learn it? Like how you yourself did it. You know, you turned up the Manx Grand Prix.
Yeah.
How many laps did you do?
Yeah, I probably did 8 laps in practice. That was about it, I think.
There you are.
But did you do a lap in the car before?
Oh, yeah.
How much homework did you do?
We went to the Southern 100. So Ray Coles took me to the Southern 100 in 1983. Did the Southern 100. And he said, right, we'll go and have a look at the TT circuit. So we drove back to Douglas and went round once, I think. I seem to remember. Was it once or twice? Once, I think. And that was it. And then the next time I came back over, obviously for the Manx, and went round. I seem to remember 10 or 11 times. And that was it. I was going off Dunbury Hill, like, sort of thing. You know. So I didn't stop anywhere to have a look at corners. I thought I can remember things. I can remember roads and that brilliantly. Like,
yeah.
You know, after that lap, what was your initial response to that? Thinking, this is a bit of me, or
this is a bit of me, and we'll see how it goes. I've always been like pessimistic sort of person. I'm not a honestly. My mum and dad were the same. I'm in terrible, and now we've got this far. It's unbelievable in racing because most people have to be like half glass full, don't they? You know, I'm half empty always. You know. And so it didn't, you know. So confidence-wise, you need to be the other way. But anyway, I've always been like, I always got this saying, always expect the unexpected. So if you ride with that, then if something bad happens, then whatever, you know. But it's a difficult one to answer. Really.
You know, like going back a little bit there. Your incentivization to go road racing was the promise of a 250 Honda or a 250 race bike.
Yeah, for the short circuits. You know, don't mind it for the short circuits, really, yeah.
I know if you had the money to buy a 250 there and then, would you have been a road racer?
I don't know. Well, yeah, maybe not.
That's sitting here. That's hard
because
to believe.
I probably wouldn't have bothered. You know, I just wanted the short circuit thing. You know, but you know, I've had more success on the roads than the short circuits. But on my day, the days were few and far between. But I could do it on short circuits. You know, on some of the European things. I went to Hockenheim, and you know, it was like lying third or fourth on the last lap, and I ended up 12th. It was that much of a gaggle of, you know, class. Italians whacking you onto the dirt, and you're slipstreaming someone 120 mile an hour going, shit, I shouldn't be on here. And then you go and you go back on, and you get an Italian going douche in one face, and then there's another one the other side going douche, you know, like bush. And
you're having me on.
Oh no, it was mad. It was bonkers, yeah.
You're having me on. They weren't
gang
actually
up on you,
you.
Yeah. And then they thought, why are they going so hard the last lap? It was the last lap, and my mechanic, helper, had put the blooming wrong laps on, so I thought it was another lap to go anyway, and they ended up 12th instead of could have been third or fourth, you know. But
Did you ever do any Grand Prix?
No, I had the chance to in '98. Was lying second in the British Championship behind Palmy. Chris Palmer, and the first 2, I think, or 3 were allowed to have an entry in the British Grand Prix. And I thought, at the time, it was going to cost, I remember Palmy, I think he said he spent $2,500 to do it, which is a lot of money then.
Yeah.
And he said, I thought, I can't afford to spend that and finish last, but when people go, look at him, he's rubbish, because you haven't got the bike. You need an A-kitted Honda, you know, and the difference is maybe 2.5 mile an hour in a straight line. But the difference in 2.5 mile an hour when you're on 125 is a lot, you know. It's probably definitely. Like 1 horsepower or 1.5 horsepower or something. And that's the difference in a fast one or a rubbish one, you know. And so I thought, I'm not going there for people that are, unless it's wet. I could have done really well in the wet because I like the wet, you know, always. But it's just, but it's like, so I didn't do it, you know. I don't regret it.
I was going to say you probably don't.
No, because I knew I'd finish. You know, you watch every other rider.
It's just a box ticker and
British
exercises.
Rider. It's sad because you haven't got the kit, you know. If you're Spanish or Italian or maybe Japanese, you've got all the kit.
Yeah.
Price comparison. What would an A kit cost?
Oh God.
At that point,
I can't remember. Well, you weren't given them. You weren't allowed them. It depends on the level you were. I know Neil Hodgson, when he first went to Grand Prix, he got a B kit. He wasn't allowed an E kit. And even then, you've got to buy it. You don't get given it. So, yeah, you've got to buy it, and you're only allowed, there's only certain ones get an A kit. So you get factory riders, then you get an A kit, then you get a B kit, and then you got your standard bikes or
whatever you could get hold
whatever
of.
you could get hold of. Yeah,
That's disgusting.
But how much would in the like mid 90s? How much would a brand new standard Honda RS125 have cost?
Mid 90s. Oh, probably the first one we bought in '89 was £4,700.
Yeah,
and that was a fortune to me then.
But you can't even buy a used one. You can't even get a good used one now for like 10.
Yeah,
10 wouldn't even scratch the surface.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even scratch the
There's a couple.
surface.
I've seen a couple for sale that's circa 10 grand with a bit of kit on them and stuff.
Well, I was gonna retire, to be honest. In the end of '88, I had a terrible year. I tried to do everything instead of doing one bike properly. I tried to run about 4 bikes. I was always riding 125s, 500, 250s, or whatever. And so much money, and you can imagine, and still working on building sites or whatever at the time. And I thought, that's it. I was just, everything just touched, the truck little truck that we had tried to buy, that was rubbish and breaking down, and I was repairing it and bikes, and because no mechanic was just me, really. My brother was a helper. And I thought, sod it. So, and then my brother said, tell you what, he said, we'll sell what we got and just try and buy a 125 something, because the 125 British Championship was just starting that year in 1990, was it? 89.
So there was Super Cup or something it was called then.
Yeah. There was two, actually. There was a 125 Super Cup and a British Championships. There was two.
There was two things.
So I did both of them, and I finished third in the British Championship, I think. First time out, I was second or third at Brands Hatch. And all of a sudden I thought, shit, I can still ride a motorbike, because you start to feel that
you can't do it.
You can't do it anymore, because your kit's not good enough. Everybody else you're up against, like all the riders at the time,
and you try to do multiple things.
You're right, I was riding against Nortons and, like Ray Stringer on a top Kawasaki, and I was on this is a few years later, I was on an OW01 Yamaha, and it was like a dog shaking a rat, it was just, I was so small on it, the bike was so big, and I hated riding it, and but some, I should have bought an RC30, but then again, you just you go the wrong way sometimes,
I want to talk about your transition between 2 strokes to 4 strokes.
Yeah.
And your first time on a 4-stroke race bike.
Oh, God.
Exactly. That's the answer.
Yeah. Awful. Because in the end, I say in the end, the years ago when I was going right, I was riding 125. Here at Scarborough, I drive 125, 250, 600 in a super bike in one meeting. So I was just about in every race on a Saturday and Sunday. So I would jump off 125 onto the super bike then onto a 600 or 250.
Yeah.
But so people say, how do you do that? I said, well, you just have to adapt, because otherwise, I said, I don't want to end up in a wheelchair. That's the way I looked at it.
No, you're right. Yeah.
You just have to
do it. Yeah.
But going back to that, first time I raced 4-stroke, I think it was 19. I rode an RC30 for Bob Heath, and it was brilliant. And I rode at the Southern 100, and I finished second in the main race, second in the other 2 races behind Dave Leach.
Bennett.
And it was really good. But the only thing was they were push starts. Right. And then everybody knows an RC30, they got a real dragging clutch, and they're quite not high as such, but tall first gear.
Yeah.
So I practiced getting it going. I couldn't get it going. Islop give me a hand. He said, "What you want to do this?" And then because he never did the Southern. Push it, and I couldn't get it going. So I'd be pushing for like 200 yards before I got it going, and everybody else is going, So anyway, I had a couple of seconds and brilliant. So then I went to the Ulster on it, and I qualified front row in front of the works bikes, alongside Steve Cull was riding the works bike. He was behind me in the next row, and I was inside Carl Fogarty's lap record around the Ulster. The first time I around the Ulster on it, and I thought, I can ride a 4-stroke, all right. But then I didn't ride the bike again. It got given to somebody else. And then the next year Yamaha, it was 91, was it? Yeah, 91, that's right. Yamaha did me a bit of a deal, and they give me this 600, which was a second-hand one, off, there was a guy called something Brooks, I can't remember his first name. Anyway, he was from around Cadwell and whatever. He was like a top guy on one of these bikes, and they were horrible. They were about this tall, You know, they had forks about that big, you know, and the tanks are up here and they were heavy and the wheels are about that wide. Oh, they were horrible, honestly. And like Dave Leach and Brian Reid and Johnny Ray Senior, he was riding them, and they could all ride them well, but I couldn't ride it. I finished about 12th or something like that at the TT, you know, but I was scared shitless on it, and I thought, oh, sod this, I can't ride a full stroke. And I put it out on my, you know, I tried and I couldn't do it. And then there was a gap then of about, when was it? It seemed like forever until I rode one for 99. And I rode for Sean, who does the World Superbikes now on the Sean Muir. Rode for him here at Scarborough. And I beat David Jeffries in the one race.
Never.
And in the second race, I was leading him, and I crashed in Farm Bends, and the bike went on fire. But it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad.
Spoken like a true racer.
It was well done, but it wasn't too bad.
Don't worry about the bike, lads.
It was medium rare.
Which is Farm, the chicane?
You don't want to know. You don't want
the end of the lap.
Yeah, the end as it comes down in there. So, but yeah, and then all of a sudden I thought, I can ride for it. But they changed. You know, the forks have got bigger, the wheels have got wider.
A race bike,
they become a race bike, and I loved it then. And that I went on from there. I was all right then.
Yeah, but was you loving?
I wasn't loving them like a two-stroke. No, I was jumping from that then onto my 250. 250. Well, you've ridden them. They're beautiful, and they're just like even now they're how old are they now? 18, 19-year-old. Yeah, it's just like jumping onto a brand new something that's just been invented, isn't it?
I have never been more nervous than riding a 250.
I've never been more jealous of you ever.
Oh, mate, no, but the thing is, it's like everyone starts the same conversation. Best thing you'll ever do, and it's very quickly followed by but. Mm-hmm. It'll hot seas, it'll cold seas, it'll seas if you go uphill, it'll seas if you go downhill. If you go left, it'll seas. If you go right, it'll seas. And I'm like, where's the enjoyment come in? And the second you get on the thing, it's just
unreal.
They are just unbelievable bikes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable bikes.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised you haven't got a 250 team, to be honest with you.
No, well, I ride, you know, like I say, we ride for Eddie Laycock, and this year I've been riding for Laylaw Racing in the last, how many years is it now? About 6, 7 years, 8 years, I think it is. But Jerry Lawler decided to take a step back at the minute.
Yes.
So it's now Laycock Racing, so myself and Mike Brown. So that'll be this year. So you know, Eddie's willing to do that, and it's great. So I got enough going on with the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And
have you got a 250 yourself still?
I've actually got 10. But they're not ones that I ride, you know what I mean? They're like all ones I've imported from Japan and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they're ornaments, because I love them so much. One's in the hall, one's in the spare room, one's in the lounge.
Your poor wife. She's just trying to get out the door. Yeah. She's stepping over bike parts.
Yeah, no, it's, it's just great. You walk down and you go, oh, that's great. And then you go and make yourself a cup of tea, you know, it's great.
I tell you what, before we go into your team management role, you know, I want to talk about, you know, what was your favourite race meeting? Although I'm going to change the question. Your favourite race meeting, you know, we were talking about how you turned up in a van with a barn door gate and you were having barbecues, and what is your go-to
so
memory?
Many, that's the trouble, you know.
Name a few. You know, we've all had them. You know, them meetings. Doesn't matter what. The best race that you have for 5th or 10th or the weekend, the heat, what?
Yeah, well, that Hockenheim one comes to mind, because that was red hot. We were all in shorts, and it was just fantastic. You know, it's a lovely circuit. Yeah, the old Hockenheim, where it went out through the forest and all that back in. Fantastic circuit, so fast, you know, and that was great. And it was just so much. Yeah, we had good crack on the way there and back, and like Ray Cowles at a stop for, like, we had my mate Morty, who's no longer with us, and my brother, I think. And we used to have a 7.5 ton van, which I bought off Steve Islop, funnily enough. It was 7.5 ton it was. And I Iveco. And I was driving along, and a bit of a story. And I going through Belgium in the middle of the night on the way there. Going, right. He says, Ray Cowles used to have a pipe.
Shut up, man.
I used to go like, I used to talk through his teeth like this, see. So I won't do anything because he's too much. And he won't understand it. And he says, hey son, he said, I want to stop for a dump. so they said, right, Raymond, we can't stop now, because I was driving at the time. Can't stop now, Raymond. There'll be our services somewhere. And I knew there wasn't, because it was Belgium, there's hardly any, isn't it? So I'm driving, and after another 20 minutes, I'm going to have to stop, son, I'm going to have to go. He said, no, I'll be all right, Ray, it won't be long now. They said, no. Another 10 minutes goes by. Right, you're going to have to, I said, right, well, we'll find a lay-by now, we have to go in a field or something. So anyway, so he pulls up, and pulls up in this lay-by, and because cars are going past, it's just like on the, sort of off, like a big lay-by, wide lay-by, but it's on the side of a motorway, and goes off in this field, and he had this torch. Well, it was a brilliant torch. You could see, I know, South Africa from here, sort of thing, So anyway, he's down in the middle of the field, like anchoring down for the night. Trousers down, and I gets the torch out the side window, so you can, by this stage, Morty had taken over the driving. So I got the light on him in the field, and all the cars are going past. So anyway, so then I jumped into bed where I was before he went. I jumped into bed, and he comes back, and I can hear him saying, "You bastard, Morton!" and he said, "It wasn't me. Was that bloody Ian?" Oh, Lougher used to call me. Is that Lougher? And he said, "Ian wouldn't do a thing like that." He said, "I'm pretending to be asleep." So I just crack like that, you have when you're doing your salary, like, good stories. There's loads of things really, but
that's all. But
just thinking about them, there's just loads. We've always had the crack, in my team. We always have good crack, and try and make it, because you need to enjoy your life, don't you, as you're going through it. Sorry, being serious when you're spirit, you need to be, but then when you have the crack, you have the crack as well, So yeah.
Oh, honestly, I just wanted to keep going with these stories. The thing is, that's when racing, it's very corporate. You've got to be corporate to get sponsors. Yeah. You've got to toe the line on that side of things. But to be blunt, our listeners listening to this, they don't want to hear the corporate shite. They want to hear that taking a flashlight on your mate having a dump. That's amazing.
Yeah, people said, "Oh, you must have seen a load of changes." But I've sort of gone with it, you know what I mean? You have to go with it. You can't stand and say, "Oh, it used to be like this," and all that. You've got to sort of go with it, because that's the way life is, isn't it? Like somebody said to me the other day, something about, "Oh, it's changed now, hasn't it?" I said, life has changed. Everything has changed, isn't it? So you've got to sort of go with it, When we talk about the social media and all that sort of stuff, you got to sort of flow with it. I mean, like I'm not, I'm bloody 60 now, and I'm into it a bit, and that's enough for me. I don't want to do too much, you know what I mean? But you've got to go with it. You can't just sort of stand back and go, "I'm going to stay back in 1982 or something." You know what I mean?
I remember. Would you want to?
There were better crack in those days, but you can't go back, can you? You can't hold it back,
But if you could, it's mad, isn't it? Born too late, and you definitely were as well. It is so. I would my dad has the crack story.
But you know why I think that is?
It's just
I've got a theory on this, and it's because when you're racing when you're young, you spend a lot of time with adults.
Yeah,
because you have to. Right,
yeah,
and then so many people say you're old before your years, but it's like actually it's a very serious thing. But you're also sort of like, it does make you grow up a bit quicker. But like I look back and think how fortunate I was to spend all that time with my dad. And go and race, and the crack you're having.
I spent a lot of time with Ray Kells, who was, I don't know, 57, 60, up to 60, whatever, So yeah, you mix in. I was only 20, 19, sort of 20. So you're mixing with older people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult. Isn't it? It's different. Different times.
And even just things like paddock life in general, borrowing things, like needing to ask a favour, you don't realise.
And used to lend each other stuff all the time, whereas now people you got one of them? No, I haven't got one of them.
Yeah.
But you might have, But it's a good story, another one. Steve Issop one time, we got to Cadwell Park, and so because there were no mobiles in those days, we just said, right, see you at Cadwell next week. So I think, right. So we get there, we have a barbie, right? Okay, we'll get some tins in or something, so we get some tinnies in, because everybody drunk, not drunk, but you'd always have
a few beers.
That was just how it was,
Chill out.
Anyway, so comes and gets there, there's a barbie, gets a barbie going, no sign of him. There used to be 3 or 4 of them travelling, and so nothing. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock, we thought, right, we're off to bed. Gets to bed in the back of the van, of course. It's like 2 or 3 of us cuddled up in the back of the thing. 2 sleeping bags and 3 people or something, like, just how it was.
Yeah.
So in the morning then, they were there. And they arrived. So I said, oh, what happened to you last night? Oh, big story, nightmare. And this is typical of what it used to be like. So he says, oh, we got down the road coming down through wherever they were coming, because he was from Hoyk, come through, down through there, whatever. Next minute, the engine went. Kaput. Crank on. Oh, nightmare, in the middle of nowhere. So he said, what do you do? We said, oh, well, walk down the road, knocks on this house. Ding, ding. This guy comes to it was about, I think it was 10 o'clock at night or something. And he says, what's the matter? He said, oh, don't suppose you know for a breakers on here, car breakers. And this guy goes, yeah. He said, where? He said, me, I've got one. He was an engine breaker. He was a car breaker.
No way.
Man.
Yeah, he says, just down the road here. So, what do you need? Well, I need a 2-litre transit engine. So he says, I haven't got one of them, but I've got a 1600. So he said, right, okay, that's great. Off they went to pick up the 1600 engine. He said, it's in that van over there. What do you mean, in the back? No, it's still in the van. Oh. So they take his out of that one, take theirs out, and then put it in on the side of the road.
And then still drove to the race meeting.
And they got the new engine in, which in those days there was obviously a lot more room around them still, but you still need a jack and whatever. This guy lent him a jack and put this other engine in, and then they drove to Cadwell. They were there for 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's a different time, isn't it?
Yeah, that's class. That's class. I love that.
You just wouldn't get that. You just
to be honest, like his boys, Steve's young boys were. Well, I say young boys, they're in their 20s now, but they were at the Classic Manx there in 2019 where they did the special thing for him because it was 30 years since he's done first 120 lap, and they were asking me about stories, and I told them that story about the van, and I said, you love that one, it's great. Like, so, they were laughing their heads off.
And you race against the Dunlops as well, and that's like a frequent question on this side of things. But I'll tell you, I'm going to ask Chrissy's question, like kind of in the middle of all this. And, it's a bit like if you...
Don't want me, by the way.
So squeaky chairs, don't worry about that. But it's a bit, if you could bring back 3 people for a night out, who would you bring back?
Well, 3 people.
Tell you what, 5. You've got crack about you, Ian. I think you could tick off 5, no problem whatsoever.
Joey, because of his, not because good crack, but he was good crack, but he was such how could you describe? You can't really describe Joey Dunlop. He was just sort of a lovely person, but he wasn't in your face. If he didn't want to talk to you, he'd walk past. But when you were doing something else, and you were doing, he'd appear and start talking, even help you, or he was just a lovely person, really. But he didn't want to, like, if he was busy, he didn't want to even talk to anybody or anything. He was quite a private person. But you've got to, went down the pub and you had a beer or whatever, you couldn't stop him talking, type of thing.
Really?
But that was when there was a close knit people around. He wouldn't be the sort of people, loads of people coming up for autographs and all that sort of thing. When there was just a couple of people, he loved talking about the bikes and, oh, your bike's quick and all that sort of thing, So you're the one with a factory bike and all that type of thing, He's got good crack, But so him really, because he was such a lovely person. There's a guy called Aubrey Macaulay from Banbridge in Northern Ireland, where close to where I am from now.
Right.
And he was a main character. Like he'd nick the sugar out your tea, but he'd do it in a nice way that you loved him for it, sort of.
Yeah.
He was just a real character.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's 2.
There are loads of people. Oh God. Probably Chris Morton, my guy who used to help me, Morty used to call, the guy who was driving the truck when we went to Hockenheim.
Yeah, I'd like to meet him.
Yeah, he was a real character, like, bloody hell. God, I couldn't even tell you some of the stories that...
Oh, you can't on Chasin the Racin. You can't on Chasin the Racin, don't we? We're not governed by anyone. Give us one story. Come on.
Okay.
This is when men were men, racing was racing. Let's talk about that.
Right, okay. Well, we went to, we used to go from where they used to live, from my mum and dad's house, they live in there. And I had an X19, Fiat X19. It was a little sports car. But don't think it was any nice sports car. Well, it was a lovely little sports car when it was new. But at this stage, it was already 15-year-old, I think. So it was pretty beat up, and they used to have little pop-up headlights. But the one was down and one was up, and because they used to have a little motor to bring up. Anyway, it was like that. And the suspension was gone on the front of it, and the engine was like just behind you. Anyway, we'd gone down it was Boxing Day, and we'd gone down to a local pub that used to have like a tug of war across this river or ford,
Yeah.
And we started, we didn't do it, like we'd be there ready to go back in the pub. So we'd watch them all go, right, they're almost finished, get back to the bar. So we'd spend all day in there. So you imagine the state
Proper
we're
crack.
when we come out. Anyway, drove in, I'm not condoning it. Anyway, drove out, going up the road, can barely see, sort of thing. And of course the shocks were gone. I turned straight into a gate post, but it spun us round and pushed all the wing down, but it came around so fast that the back tyre and the front tyre are now flat. But the wing is now all sharp and down into the tyre. So we're laughing our heads off, of course, not a scratch on us, I don't think. And I'm driving and Morty's alongside me. And he says, oh, that was, right, yeah, we're facing the wrong way. Oh, don't matter, we go this way. So we're facing the wrong way. So I get out and try and pull the wing off the tyre. And I'm wondering, I've got blood on my hands because I just cut all my hands everywhere. There's blood everywhere. So we get back in and we're driving up the road, and then we got because both the tyres are off. It just got messier and messier, and anyway, the car we got it home all right, just about. But
no one will know. Click.
Yeah. So and then the car went missing strangely after that. I don't know where.
I bet it did. I bet it did. So hold on, before we finish that question, we've got three there.
Yeah.
Come on, who's 4 and 5?
Robert Dunlop was quite good crack. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, in a different way to Joey. He was a different person.
In what way?
He was just more.
He was a bit younger, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. I think was he 7 years? I think he was 7 or 9 years. But
right.
He was good crack, but he was like more the marketing sort of, like he was a bit more, where because it's a different time as well than Joey was, because that age gap, you realised, you had to be a bit more smart, and because Joey at one time was like, greasy hair and, it's amazing. Yeah, it's just the difference in them was chalk and cheese, but they got on well as well.
That's good. So that's 4. Who's number 5? Wow.
I'm struggling now. You should have told me Buzz before.
Nah, that's not how this works.
Because
I'll think about something later, and I'll be kicking myself in.
I like that. Don't worry. You can drop us a text. We'll slap it in there. Don't worry. We'll just flash up a name on that side of things.
Yeah,
he's thinking about it. I think I can
there's
quite
loads of people. I just can't think of one.
It's hard when you're on the spot because you think.
Yeah.
See, that's a good. I'm not being funny. That is a great sign of proper great racing. You know what I mean?
Or old age in this.
No, don't be daft. No, but the thing is, it's mad, isn't it? Because people don't realise, you've got to have the crack, the giggle. The fact that you're jumping in a van and going racing at top end events.
That's just all part of it, isn't it? It's not just actually the riding the bikes.
Not the riding the bikes, is it? No.
I was saying that to someone who came up to Grace's studio, and it was just like. And they were like, the wife came along with the husband, and they're like, I absolutely love it. And I don't know anything about bikes. And it's like, actually, when you think about it, the bikes is 10%.
Of it, yeah.
It's just
you know what I mean? The actual racing element is only, it's the crack, it's the element, it's sitting down, it's being absorbed in it, you meet friends for life, and it's just...
That's right.
That's what the podcast...
It's the common denominator, isn't it? The bike racing is the thing that we're all interested in and gravitate to.
Brings together, yeah.
And actually, do you not think as well, I think within racing that the age is relevant?
Yes.
It doesn't matter. You could sit in a pub with anyone from 18 to 60 odd or whatever. It just doesn't matter. Yeah. Yes, different things have happened, but you could ultimately sit and have a conversation about something.
Yeah.
That's what, but that's it. But the thing is, you haven't actually. Leading on to my next question is, you've kind of defaulted it in a way because you're still racing. You're out. You've already said earlier on that you're out racing one of your new 600s, getting it ready. But what's it like being a team owner, running people? Like putting lads on your bikes.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoy it. I enjoy that side of it. Sometimes it can get a bit frustrating and annoying, and because everybody's different.
Yeah. And you can do it, so you're like,
yeah, it's not so much that, but it's like you just want to give my experience to help riders go along, and sometimes they sort of know more than I do. Well, so they say. Yeah. So, and then that's annoying, and I just sort of lose heart with it then, a bit. Yeah. But generally it's good, it's good. But it's interesting, exactly what we were saying there about the personalities, that's what makes some people are so dedicated and so thinking, and you say to them, I want you to write a track map down, especially BSBs and stuff, right, okay, yeah, and they do it religiously, everyone, because I say, well, I want to know what gear, and just tell me about the corner, is it this or that, and then that way, then they'll remember stuff, and they'll come in and go, if I hadn't written that down, I'd have forgotten to tell you about it's running wide there or whatever, And I go, oh, that's good. And you say to another rider, exactly the same age, whatever. One time we had like a 15-year-old, 17-year-old. I'm not going to name names. And the 17-year-old was just interested in wheeling his push bike around the paddock, and he went backwards, whereas this other rider went forwards, because he was writing everything down, and he was just wanting to learn. He just wanted to absorb everything. Whereas the other one was sort of, I don't know what he was doing it for you, really. Sad, But anyway, so it's difficult. It's not easy doing it. And if you speak to anybody like speaking to Rutter or whatever, he said, God, I didn't realise how hard this is.
That's actually very good. That's actually very, very good, to be fair.
Yeah, it's hard riding and doing your own team as well.
Yeah,
because it's certainly harder than just riding the bike. But even saying that, I've never just run the bike. I've
done it all anyway.
I've ridden. I've done my own team more or less all of my life, really.
Because we're having a bit of crap pride because your first step into supporting someone was Ollie Linsdale.
That's right, in the BSB, it was, yeah. On the roads, it was Mark Buckley in 2006. And 2008, then I went to BSB with Ollie Linsdale, was the first one in stock 600. Yeah.
I tell you, one of the hardest challenges, as you've got Mark over there, and you're always trying to attract people into this sport, and there's always the danger element. We can't get away from that in road racing, and that that is the draw of it. But how was your attitude actually supporting someone on the roads? Because yourself, when you're on the throttle, like all of us are, you know what I mean? Your responsibility as a rider, you know what you're doing, you know what risks you put yourself into. But when someone comes up to you and goes, Ian, can you help me out on the roads? What was that like for the first time for you? Was it?
Yeah, a bit worrying, I've got to be honest, because Mark had one crash at the Northwest coming up the chicane, actually just a silly little crash, turned it on its roof and whatever, but it was, a little bit worrying in the beginning, it was, but I was still, obviously riding myself as well, and as well as just riding the bike, whereas now I'm sort of more
focused on just doing the team thing.
But I think the thing is to try and make it as safe as possible. I've always tried to cover my base. That's probably why I'm still here, maybe. I don't know. But knowing when you think, right, you try and surround yourself with good mechanics or guys that you trust, they're not going to leave anything loose, and not just choose anybody. Try and get the best tyres at the time if you can. Try and get the best machine, and that's not going to make you ride over the top. If you know it's 10 mile an hour too slow, it's going to make you ride harder, and then you're going to end up in a crash situation, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah.
So you try and surround yourself and try and give that. And then now I try and get the bike set up as much as I can for riders. And also I sort of do a bit of homework on them as well. Don't want to just take someone who I think, oh God, he's a bit loose, he's a bit of a crasher.
You wouldn't have him on the road, sort of thing,
I wouldn't want to be responsible, because some people you can slow down a bit. And we had a rider called Joe Loughlin. And...
Carry on.
People were saying to me, "Oh my God, you'll never tame him. He's this, he's that," and he was a bit loose. He was very loose.
He was an aggressive rider who hadn't this is my opinion. You know, he didn't come from BSB stock. He didn't come up from, you know, like his father raced. Is that correct?
Yeah, he still does. Yeah.
So he's from a racing background. But I tell you what, when Joe saw a gap, he went for it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they turned his entry down the Manx in, what year was it? I don't know. It was quite a few years ago now.
That's right.
Yeah, because he knocked 2 others off at the Ulster, trying to go round the outside and knocked 2 of them off, and they all went in the field. And so it was quite a few years ago. But he eventually, friends of mine said, "Oh, would you give Joe a go?" And I'd sort of forgotten the story of this that thing, and some other people said, "Oh, he's a good rider. He just needs to calm him down a bit and whatever." So anyway, he joined us, and I said, and it was just before COVID, and it was 2020, and because we obviously didn't know what was happening, I said, "Right, we'll do. How do you fancy doing a couple of PSBs?" And he said, "Well, we can do if you like." And I said, "Well, no, it'll make you a better rider. It'll teach you that every time you go around a lap, you just can't let the brakes off and try and outbrake
everyone.
You know, Jeremy McWilliams, Lee Johnston, you know, all these guys, they're experienced, they can do it lap after lap." And he said, "Oh, okay then." And I said, "No, it will." I said, "You'll probably finish 31st. You'll be sweating your ass off. You'll get off the bike and say, 'What the hell are they doing this for?' But I said, eventually it'll come, every session you'll get a little bit better, and you'll be able to, you have to, because everybody else will be passing you." And he looked at me as to say, "You cheeky sod. I'm not going to get like that." I could see it in his eyes. He didn't say anything. So anyway, we went to Alton Park, and sure enough, he was 32nd, I think. And then eventually he was 29th. And then I think he come out of the weekend, he may be 25th or 23rd, something like that. And I think you were dicing with him.
No, I think...
Not the first one. I think the next one you were dicing with him.
It was the next one, because he did a year with you, and then the following year, and that was my first British Supersport race ever. And me and him were battling for like 13th, 14th. Yeah. But that was, you know what I mean? And all I kept thinking with is, and I'm like, go on. You know, when you get to a point going, you source it, then you're thinking, oh, we just started like trading places all the way through the race. It was fantastic. It was.
But that was I think that was his 4th win at that time. Because he started, like I said, he was 30th, and the next meeting we went, he was 20th. Then he was starting again. So anyway, we obviously had the 2 years of COVID, and then he did Brands as well, and then eventually in 2022, the plan was to do it before the Northwest, you see. So we did the Alton, and he finished, he diced with you or whatever. He went to the Northwest, and he finished 6th in the 600 race. And nobody came in.
Which is very...
Dicing with McWilliams, in front of McWilliams, you know, and other people, you know, don't get me wrong, I can't remember the others.
You had R6s at that point. Yeah, that's correct. You were running R6s,
That's right, yeah. And which is not the best one in the world. It's a good bike, but it's not, you know. No. Anyway, so he finished 6th, and nobody, what I liked about it most, nobody came in and said, "Oh my God, he's a loose cannon, he's nuts, it was perfect." And he could concentrate per lap, you know. So the plan worked great, really. And then also he won the Super Twins race. Although it obviously got taken off him 18 months later, but we won't talk about that. No. Not that I'm bitter, but...
No. But then, you know, your pattern got, like, you know, you and the team's pattern, you did win the race, you know, at that point. You know? But when you think, was that his second time there? Was that his first?
It's only his second time there, you know, like, and like he started a young family now and everything like that. But as far as, you know, we kind of glaze over it a little bit on the show here, but it's like a bit like, you know, like raw natural talent. Joe, he had them bit between his teeth. Have you come across anyone like Joe before? If you like that talent element. There's quite a lot of different riders. You know, we had Connor Cummins riding for us. Victor Cox was really, you know...
I'm looking forward to your T-shirt. You know your team IL... Connor... Clive Padgett did it. You know, when he had all the riders over the years on the back of a shirt. I think you're going to have a bloody hoodie or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I tell you what, one year we had 2014, talking about that, it was going to be he was going to do a few rounds. Ended up he only did one round and about 4 tests with us. Was Danny Eslick from America.
Oh, really?
And he's won Daytona.
Yeah. I remember him being over. Yeah, I remember that.
That's right. And he came to Brands. Well, he actually, funny story, we were at Brands, me and Asa, my wife, and we were waiting at Brands for him to arrive. It was a cold, horrible day. And next bit he arrives about 3 hours late. And then, not that we were waiting for him because it was the day before, sort of thing, this test. And he says, "Where you been?" He said, "Hey, man," he said, sort of shook his hand. He said, "Hey, man, went the wrong circuit, didn't I?" What? Went to Snetterton instead, because we were going to do Brands then Snetterton. He went to Snetterton first, got him the wrong way round. And that's sort of fella he was. He said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "We're used to doing 28 hours drive each way." He said, "It's only 3.
Yeah.
So to him, it was nothing.
It was nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
And he was mega talented in a great way as well, real character. He goes out in the test and he goes, it was a funny one. He put his helmet on and he was like all laughs and jokes, and he used to have this chewing tobacco. He used to like Clint Eastwood,
a proper Texan kind of job,
spit this stuff out, And anyway, so he gets his helmet on, and you could actually see the smile as the visor's coming out. You could see it disappearing, and the eyes were like, he was unreal. And he went out, and anyway, he qualified. We had him and Robin Harms.
Yeah,
from the World Superstar, and they qualified like 6th and 8th or something on the grid, and there was 58 stars, and the grid was split by like 1.2 seconds or something. It was mad that year, and because it was on the short circuit of Brands as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he came in after the qualifying, and he said, and he had rubber marks up here and down the side of the bike, and everything. Said, "What happened, Danny?" He said, "Hey man," he said, "I was on a fast lap. Come under this guy around the back of the straightaway, and he said I just had to get through." He said, "And we're not here to make friends, right?" So he was dead funny, And anyway, he went out and finished. I think he was 6th or 9th in the race or something, but he was real good. And then we went to Alton Park, and he went out behind Joe Burns.
Right.
And Joe was real hot at that time.
Yeah, Joe was
real good rider, Joe. Anyway, he didn't sort of go out behind him. I noticed he was about 100 metres behind him. And we came out of the garage, he lifted the door, and he went, like literally, he was so laid back. He said, he knew he was doing it for a laugh. He said, "That way, right?" So down the pit lane, So off he goes. And a lap later, he was still 100 metres behind Joe Burns. Right?
Never.
And he come away from the test. I think he did a 39 something. On his first time there. Yeah.
That's howling.
In a test, only 3 sessions, 3 long sessions. He was mega talented, I'd love to work with him again, but then, money and...
Yeah,
it's hard to put it together.
Yeah.
I tell you,
just on the subject of Joe Burns, I need to just give him a little shout out because he's kindly donated some really trick diamond products.
They're brilliant. We use them actually.
Yeah,
they're fantastic.
Tire blank. Yeah, the blankets and stuff. So and some other bits and bobs. So thanks, Joe. I promised I would give him a thing. Thank you
they're
for
really
that.
good. We've got them in our team. They're fantastic.
Yeah, they're really good stuff. He does some great products as well now.
Yeah.
Sorry, no. It's talking about your riders before we go on to current affairs, shall we say? You must tell everyone about your Japanese rider that comes to. It's either the T2 or the Manx.
Yeah.
And am I right in saying he lives at work at in a tiny little apartment, or can you? This is dedication to come and racing. Please tell everyone.
Yeah, he's not a young guy. He's now 50.
That's young.
55, 56.
That's young. Don't worry about
that.
I didn't see it. No,
but no, he lives basically in his shop. So he lives in sort of central Tokyo, and he's got. He sells and works on students' scooters and things. Repairs them and stuff like that. And he's got probably 3-4 room for about 4 bikes in the shop. Then there's a counter. And then there's just stuff and spares everywhere. And he lives around the back of the counter, back on the counter. There's not any shower or anything. He goes down in Japan. You can go into onsens and places and to have a shower and bath and all that sort of stuff. So it's a dedication, and he just puts the whole world into coming to the TT every year. Yeah, a real nice fella, real good guy. Yeah, but yeah, that's the other side of. Someone can't be bothered to go racing. This guy is dedicated.
All he cares about, yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen on social media or that, he'll be around visiting all the different sponsors, because the bike, each sponsor's like that on our fairing or whatever, and he spends 2 days putting the sponsor stickers on. It takes that, and he goes around visiting everyone in Japan. They do it properly. They go and thank a race. They get on a train, and they go around for a week just saying thank you to everybody, thank you, and Whereas in this country, we don't even a lot of people don't even thank the sponsors, you know. They do things real properly, like, you know, and they take a little present as well, which might cost, you know, you buy some sweets over there, they're all wrapped nicely or whatever, and there might be 20, 40 quid's worth of sweets, you know, just a packet of sweets or biscuits or something like that from that area, you know, and then they'll, you know, give them to the people. So it's interesting, real interesting culture and lovely people. Yeah.
Because how long has he been doing it now with yourself?
Well, he was doing it on his own at first, and I couldn't believe that he asked us for help the last day that before he was leaving. You know, before the race, and he hadn't tried anything, he hadn't had time to try anything, and he was still using standard forks. I couldn't believe it on a Honda CBR 600. You know, back in 2017, I think. So after that, I said, you know, why didn't he join us? And he didn't want to sort of felt a bit embarrassed to do or something. But yeah, I know. So he's been every year with us since, and real good guy, like, you know.
And do you look after his bike and everything? Or?
Yeah. He rides our ER6, and he rode our CBR 600 last year. Yeah.
And how is he getting on? Is he just happy? Is he happy just to ride, or is he progressing?
Yeah,
is he
like,
progressing?
you know, what's his, but this year he hasn't got a 600 entry.
Right.
I suppose they're looking at his age. He's not progressing so much on the 600. He had a crash last year as well.
Bloody hell.
Coming out of Glen Ellen. But he went up the middle of the road, so he didn't hit anything. Just got in,
thank God,
too fast, sort of thing, and run onto the, you know, the road goes like that on the Glen Ellen, and it just sort of run the back end, and it sort of and then launched him up the road. So got him on TV though. So
all his sponsors are over the moon with it, absolutely over the moon.
So we haven't got 600 ended this year. So. Yeah, so.
But I tell you what, let's talk about 600s. You know, you've gone down the Honda route. You know, how much of a how are you feeling about the affairs at the moment? Like, and what I mean by affairs is, like, you know, you've got the Ducati V2s, you've got the Gixxer 750s, you've got the 765s of the Triumphs, and Honda are. Am I right in saying they're the only flagship at the moment making 600s for the road again? Because the R6s have stopped.
Oh, the Kawasaki of...
you can buy a 636.
636, that's right. Yeah, the only 600 though, yeah, that's right.
But they were one
you
of
can buy a Yamaha, but it's like in race trim, isn't it?
Yes.
So not race trim, it hasn't got any
track day
bodywork.
Yeah,
it's just in black. And there's no paintwork, there's no lights. It's just basically it's a track bike, isn't it?
But it's like leading into it, you have to... The Honda route's almost a difficult one because you can detune a Ducati, you can detune the Triumphs, and it's interesting. But then, why go down the Honda route? What is your personal belief behind them?
Well, they're good power, and they're probably the best handling bike. You know, I was interested to watch Jack Kennedy's progress there the other day in the Donington test, and I was glued to the screen because we've got a couple of new ones coming, and I was thinking, I hope he does well.
I bet.
You know, and he was well. He was good straight away. And one thing I really noticed was down through his sector 1 times, going down through Craner.
Really
he was
strong.
Faster than anybody. He was 124.9, I think.
There's a speed trap down there.
Yes, you go through the...
I better put my finger out. I'm after Donington after this.
It doesn't obviously mean too much the speed of the bike, but it shows the confidence he's got in the chassis going through there, because you need to anybody goes through there is, you know, there's a massive difference, you know.
When you look at Jack's times from that test as well, he missed out a little bit on the 1 lap pace, but all of the 3 guys in front of him did like a handful of 31s, and he did 9. Like, do you know what I mean? So
right.
I think he's going to be thereabouts, and I think Honda will improve the bike as well. They've got the dune stuff, and he really likes it. He said it's very good.
Because I'm right in saying you can have the engine upgrades, can't you?
It's got a bigger throttle body, hasn't it?
Is that all it is?
I think so. I don't know.
Well,
that's not official.
Compared the old one to this one, they're like 4 mil bigger, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's 4 mil.
And that's only. Is that the only difference at the minute?
No, well, I'm sure they've improved a few bits, but I don't actually know. It's on Mectronic. It's a new generation bike. It's not. It's not a. It's not a Motec. It's on the new generation stuff.
I don't know exactly the rules of, you know, for BSB what it's moved forward with.
But they can this year have, so all the new generation bikes as well can have different. You can change head angle and offset, and you can change swing arm pivot and stuff as well.
I didn't know that. Right, all the bikes.
Just the new gen bikes, so Hondas, Ducati, and Triumph.
Right. Okay.
R6s as well.
Yeah,
his eyes lit up there. He's like,
no, but to be honest, you don't on the Honda. You don't need it. It's been the best. Like I rode for Honda in 2007, and that's basically the same frame.
Yeah.
To now, I think it's the same partner from 2007 onwards. So the new bike is the same frame. They're fantastic. And I remember going from the 2006 bike when I was with Honda to the 2007 and thinking, Jesus, this is light years better, because it was the first bike to put the tank down in between the frame, you know, like a central mass centralization. And they were the first bike to do that, and it handles so good. It was brilliant, like, you know. And that's basically the same chassis now, really.
I love the Honda. I've just always loved them. Watching World Supersport as a kid,
beautiful.
Yeah.
They are beautiful.
Trick.
Yeah.
I'm like buzzing to see Jack on it in BSB because it just looks factory, doesn't it? The whole thing just looks Honda.
It's nice. Yeah. No, it should be good. So we've been running one for 3 years now. We had Adam McLean in the stock 600.
Yeah, I remember that.
2021. So that's the same bike. That's when the new model came out. You see, late. In Japan, it came out late 20.
Oh, I remember you being like the first guy to have one of them.
Yeah.
I remember coming in, turning in your own because I want to see the little wings on it and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So, but unfortunately that year with Adam, we had a lot of just bad weather. Every session, every circuit we went to was raining or damp, and you know it's like a BSB. Say you're one session behind, the chassis is good. But the problem is the new bike's got longer forks, stiffer swing arm, or stiffer or stiffness is different.
Yeah.
And a little bit longer swing arm. So everything is not starting from zero, but you're still playing around with things.
Yeah.
You know, and you can sort of not lose your way, but I think we did lose our way a little bit. We were going the wrong sort of setting, I think. That's why I'm riding at you, to be honest, is because I never get to ride the 600 much, and I just want to see what it's doing now, you know. And I've altered a few things, so you know, it's just because you can't ask anybody else what setting you've got, you know.
Yeah, of course.
You know, so
do you still? You know the lion in the cage situation. You know what I mean? Do you still get now? I've raced against you, and I'll tell you what, I did not know you could pass around here in places till he passed me. You know what I mean? That Super Touring race we've done, like me and Jamie Coward, have absolutely hammered bars around here. And I'll tell you what, age is just a number. He keeps throwing that up there. Bollocks to you. I've seen you ride. Like you're just going into a corner, and you're like, where the fuck? Where did he come from? But like, do you still, you know, going in tomorrow?
I don't want to ride around and feel like, you know, I'm getting in people's way. Like, no way. I'd stop tomorrow if I want to be competitive. You know, no matter what I do. Really, I'm not saying I want to go and win, or as long as I'm happy with the way I've ridden and I've finished okay-ish. Yeah, I'll be happy really. Whereas a few years ago, I'd say no. I'd be only happy if I'm first or second Tuesday or first.
That's class.
You know, that's just how it is when you're getting older. You start to think about things a little bit more. But Are you like I must go back a little bit, you know, like because you took on a huge task off that Suter 500 two-stroke, and you were
all about that.
You were the man, like to like put. I'm sorry, but they brought out a fuel injected 500 two-stroke, and everyone just went. There was two people that popped in your mind, one being Ian Lougher and number two Bruce Anstey. I'm sorry, but they were the facts. So you know when that appeared, did you just went and here comes the phone call? Here comes the phone call.
No, it was actually, to be honest, it was Paul Phillips who contacted me initially,
right?
Because I'd retired from. But I always said I'm going to carry on doing the Manx, or the Classic Manx as it was called then. And to do that, you've got to do your 6 races. Mm-hmm. So every time I turn up, people go, "No, I thought you retired," but you've got to do your 6 races somewhere. Yes. So I might as well come here and do them and enjoy it, you know. So anyway, so here or somewhere else or something. And so then I got a thing from Paul Phillips, and I said, "What is this a?" So I hadn't seen the bike then. I said, "What do you mean a classic TT?" You're thinking. He said, "No, the TT. Do you fancy riding it?" And I was sat with Asa, my wife, and she said, "Don't regret doing it, or don't regret not doing it. That's the thing. So don't do it for me then. Do it for whatever you want to do." And I said, "Well, I can't sit by and see somebody else riding it and then they do." And in my mind, I was thinking 127 straight away because that's what Bruce had done. 126, I think he did. 120. Anyway, something like that.
On the classic, but on the
YZR 500.
The bike.
You can't call it classic, but
I know.
It's the most fact.
So anyway, so that took 8 minutes, I think. So I rung him back and
were you trying to play it cool?
Yeah,
I'll think about it. And hello, Paul. How are you?
It was brilliant in a way because fantastic people. We're still friends now. Eskil Suter and Alex Chasin, the head engineer and stuff, and they're just so switched on with stuff. But I never realised what a brave company they are. I thought when they invited us over to the Swiss Auto Show, which is in February or March or something, when I have a look at the bike, and I was like, a dog with two dicks. I was like, oh wow, look at this, fantastic.
Castrol R in the air.
Oh god, it's fantastic, but it didn't. When I rode it, it was. We went testing it to, I can't remember the name of the circuit, in Italy, a little place where Brembo use and somewhere else for testing anyway. And I went to this place and I rode it and I thought, this is great. But it was only a short little go-karty type track. And I thought it was great. And they said, right, tomorrow the better proper engine, the one said, right, okay, great. And I rode it and I only did I think the one day I did 50 laps. The next day I think I did 3.5 laps and it broke down every time I went out.
Oh God.
And they just couldn't get the feeling right at all. It was just terrible. So anyway, to the next test, I think it was Brno, and they were still using Motor 2, because they were obviously involved with Marquez in Motor 2 in 2012. He won the World Championship.
Yes, was it basically a Motor 2?
No, it wasn't. It was a totally different chassis.
It was a different thing.
But they had the Motor 2 forks in it. So it was much too stiff, because this only weighed 127 kilos, they said.
Bloody hell.
So it was much too stiff for it. And I kept saying, they said, oh yeah, we got the other forks. And then they didn't have any springs for the forks. There was a muck-up. Anyway, I ended up pushing it into the last corner, and there's a real bump coming into that last corner before it comes through that big chicane. And I lost the front and crashed. And they were like, nah, don't worry about it. We got another 2 bikes or 3 bikes. So that's it. We only had 3 of them made, I think, at that point. And so anyway, so that was that. But the problem is, when I went to the Isle of Man, I'd ride it, and I seized the first one at Glenvine Village, the fast right-hander, going into there, it seized. So that was interesting. So I got through it, because I'm used to 2-strokes, I got it all right. I caught the clutch, that was okay.
Sorry, describe, bear in mind, on a 600 you don't even lift, big bike, your back one, you're going through there, 170 plus. Yeah. So
it's quick,
Oh, it's quick. Yeah. So where did it go? Were you on the eve of the tyre or coming out?
It was just sort of going in, just on the bit, just before you sort of apex. So it was quick, just. But I grabbed it. The thing is, the oil and the pistons are much better than years ago. When I first started racing, you'd have 0.1 of a second to pull the clutch in.
Yeah, you've got a bit of time now.
You've probably got 0.8 or something.
See,
so to me, it's quite a long time, but it's not a long time if you're not used to them,
To a modern rider, that it would have been a full
when I ride a 4-stroke now, I still got my hand on the clutch.
I still ride like that. All the pictures I look at from when we were riding a couple of weeks ago, I've got one finger of the clutch. Don't know why. Don't use it.
Well, anyway, I coasted down the road and then asked my wife, so obviously these days mobile, broken down, all right, I'll come and get you. So she comes around in the session, comes back, and we just made it to do another lap. And they obviously richened the other bike up, 2 bikes, so went out, did a full lap. That was all right, okay-ish, but it wasn't right, but it was keep going on the thing. And then the second lap, then it sees going into Ginger Hall, the pub. Just going in there, it sees. So I got that. So I seized both of them the first night. So
you picked some good spots here, to be honest.
And then the next...
And what was that down to? Just fueling?
Yeah, just fueling and stuff. But then the next night, you'd go up the mountain mile, say along somewhere where you're on the gas for a long time. So you go into the end of the mountain mile, sort of 6th gear, then you go in the 4th, and you pick up the throttle, then nothing. And you're falling into the wall, and just about to hit your shoulder on the wall, and all of a sudden it go, and it would stick it itself on the back wheel then on the way out. So you're almost... So then I was going to go into the corner and open the gas before I wanted to. Before your brain is telling you can, just so that it wouldn't hit the wall,
Why is that? Why?
They didn't have it right. But then they sorted that, and then the next night, I got black flagged at Sulby because it was burning smoke. It was burning the gearbox oil. The clutch... No, actually, what happened was, the next night, I came in, and I said, it's gone hard to change gear. Just at the end of the lap, I pulled in. And one of the mechanics went to turn the wheel to put the warmer on, and he could barely turn the wheel. He said, no, there's something wrong. So I didn't go out on it, and they there was no oil left in the gearbox. So that was interesting.
God.
That could have been interesting. So
just a tad.
yeah. So basically, the seal on the centre of the crankshaft was failing, and it was sucking the oil from the gearbox into the engine and burning it.
How many engines did you have?
That stage, I don't know. I think they had 2 or 3 spare engines.
2 bikes.
Yeah.
3 engines.
Well, they were sending people, instead of sending a crankshaft across, they were sending a person from the factory with the crankshaft in his bag coming over. That's what they were doing first of all. It was just money was no object. And then the next night then, I got black flagged at Selby. So I rode, because I felt all right. So I rode it back round the back roads. Then the next night,
I wouldn't know where to go. I'd be like,
yeah. So it's interesting. By the time we got the race, I finished the race. I did 121, and I was real disappointed. I thought, oh Jesus! But they cured that throttle problem, but it was. I never concentrated on the chassis really because it was just the engine side of things. Following year, I came back and I went testing to Alcaraz in Spain. Brilliant circuit, I loved that. And you go down like a big waterfall. I called it a waterfall because it was like, it goes down a big hill and it's like off camber. And on the 500, you could get it sort of spinning going down the hill. It's brilliant. Anyway, so it did that test and I thought, right, it's cured now. It's great. And I went to TT and I got flu real bad. And the thing was just, then I realised the engine was good, but the chassis was, I don't know, just a bit stiff. It's a bit stiff, I think, the chassis. Somewhere along the line, it's not quite right, you know? Because I did 123 on a NSR 500 V-twin back in 99, which is almost the outright lap at the time.
yeah.
With David Jeffries now. The outright lap was 124 something. So I thought, oh, and this thing is 10 mile an hour faster, 15 mile an hour faster. But it didn't work out like that. And anyway, so I rode it and I realised, I was looking out the side window every time. You'd go down towards the 11th milestone, it would stick up itself on the back wheel and land and bounce and come up again, and you're going around corners, sort of bounce like that. It was real, like it had too much air in the tyres type of thing.
Yeah.
So much chassis. And it was hard work, but I did 124 something on it. Not too
It's
bad.
getting fat. The story's progressing.
Yeah.
So is the speed.
But it's a shame that there was a year in between that. There was 2016, 2018, 17, there was nothing. So they'd, gone forward with the bike. And they've sold, quite a lot of them. That was their plan, to try and make a bike, to make a series. I think try and get Kevin Schwantz involved and some of the other guys.
Could you imagine?
So, that was the idea. So, but it never...
But yeah, is there a reason why it never, the project didn't continue? Or
Yeah, they're just a very good, people know them from motorbikes and things, but they've got all sorts of engineering things going on, big manufacturers and electric motors, and they design anything for everybody.
Yeah.
And the bikes is a small part of it. Well, it wasn't a small part of it in the beginning, I think, but then, because Eskil was a 250 European Championship rider in 1991, I rode against him. When back in the day, when we were saying back those days on 250 European Championships. So we ended up, like I was riding for him. It's weird, really.
See, how close are you to them on the phone? Because I'm going to put an idea in your head here, right?
Yeah.
Get the Super project back up and going. And I know the perfect rider for it. Jim Hind.
Yeah, Jim would be good on it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As much as I would like to ride it, be selfish here, but that, but he's just, there's 2 stroke running through that lad's veins.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He isn't but I tell you what.
Is he here this weekend?
Well, I don't know.
I don't
think so.
But I've heard rumours he is, but
okay.
no, because funny enough, when I kindly spoke to you on the phone, me and Chrissy were down here and we tried to get you and Jim on at the same time, but it was his mum's
birthday at the time. That's right.
Timing never lined up, which was a damn shame. So it's absolutely great to have you on. But I tell you what, you need to pick up. In fact, we'll watch you do it now while we're live on Grace's show here. Get on the phone to Suter and get that bike rebuilt, 100%.
Well, a nice thing that came out of that, because we got on so well and whatever. If you get, you get a Suter clutch, because that's how they started, with the clutches.
Yeah. You're immediately 5 mile an hour quicker everywhere just because someone pulls out the box with Suter written on it.
And on the box is a picture of me on the 500.
Oh, that's cool.
I never used. I thought that looks like my helmet. It's me on the box, which is really nice for me, because it's just really it is just really flattering, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's really nice. Yeah.
What is your most obscure best achievement? Like like that box is a great example. You know, something
that's
like
one of them, like
it's got to
be
be
involved
that.
with that company. I could have said no in the beginning, never been involved with them, even though it was hard work. But they're all just they play hard and they work hard, just like our team, you know.
Yeah.
So it was just that was really, really satisfying, you know, to see that happen, and you know, to be involved with them. And I learned so much as well, you know, just like Alex Chasin, his name is, and such a nice guy. But when he's working, he's like that. But when he's not working, he's playtime, you know, and just. The guy could just look at this table and say, I could design this better, something. He just works stuff out in just looking at a chassis or something. Fantastic, you know, but
I love it.
Didn't quite get it right for the TT, but it was a very good bite on the short circuit, you know.
Oh, we need to get that back. But I tell you what, I'm not being rude. Sorry, we've got obviously patrons, and if you sign up to be a patron, you get to ask you questions directly, and we'll do the names on that side of things. But Josh, have you got any more questions? Because he's got a team to run, and you've got a bike to race tomorrow.
I've got one question.
Go.
Who's the? I'll not say the best. That's the wrong word. Who's the most favourite rider you've had as in your team?
Because everyone
to
has
work
favourites.
with, and like for whatever reason.
That's a difficult one. God. I don't know. Really.
Question, Josh.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily most talented or had the most success, but just who you enjoyed working with the most.
Well, Joe Lachlan. There's not just one rider, I don't think. There was Vasco van der Valk on the Moto 3.
Yeah.
He was a real good lad. I enjoyed working with him a lot.
Yeah.
Victor Cox was funny, and you know, I remember one time he came back from we were at Donington.
Yeah.
And I'd already taken the truck to the TT, and it was boiling hot day. And I said to Victor, a little bit like that story we were talking about earlier about going down through the Craner. I said, Victor, do you realise you're faster than John Hopkins going down through the bottom of Craner? Oh, am I? I said, yeah. I said, don't you think it's a bit fast? You're on a super stock and he's on a superbike. And I said, you're like 10 mile an hour faster than any other super stock. Oh, I feel all right though, he said. I said, oh, that's okay then. I'm just mentioning it. Just have a think on it. Anyway, the next session, Craner curves. Gone. No. So he comes back and he says, Lougher, he says, I had a bit of a crash. I said, I know, we've seen you go missing at turn 3 or whatever it is. And he said, I says, what's the bike like? Oh, it's not too bad, he said, and he had a piece of it in his hand. He always brought back a piece. Anyway, he had this piece and it was something like that. And I said, right. I don't think it's too bad though, he said. I thought,
that's the universal rider's code for it's fucked.
Anyway, literally 10 seconds later, his mate walks around the corner, who's a photographer, and his mate walks around, he says, Victor, oh my God, you should see your crash. I've got it here on his camera. He said, every click, he said it went up, he said it must have been 40 foot in the air. Next time it came down, it just missed your legs, then it went up again, and Victor looks across me, he goes, like
it's not bad.
It's not bad. And he's like, oh no. And anyway, Ben Frame, you know the situation. Yeah. So we worked all night to get him out. But he was a funny guy to work with, and a lot of good memories of Victor. But yeah, there's loads of guys here. They're all different in different ways. Philip Backlund was from Sweden, and he was unbelievable. He turned up the first meeting, and Victor had finished third in the British Championship in 13 and 12. And 2013, Philip ended up finishing third, so which was really good for us as a team, you know.
Aye.
And anyway, he turned up first, and he was a good rider in Sweden, but there was only maybe 18 people on the grid, and you think, but
what does it mean?
What does that mean? You know. Anyway, he turned up, and he was dicing with Jason O'Halloran for the win, and he lost it by like 200ths of a second.
Jason O'Halloran.
Jason O'Halloran.
Yeah, he was riding for Honda then, yeah.
And we thought, wow, he can ride. And Victor was like, couldn't believe it. He was 12th or something, you know. And that's hard then you were asking earlier about dealing with riders, you know, personalities and that, you know, because they, you know, they're a bit pissed off. Their teammates just come from nowhere and all of a sudden he's, you know,
him in his place.
But the following meeting, Victor won the race and, you know, so it was, interesting.
I remember Philip turned up on the scene and just being impressive straight away, and everyone being like, oh, who's this?
Who the hell's that? Like, yeah, he's good. But he was totally different character to anybody. You know, he'd have a bicycle, you know, when, you know, on a stand and be, you know, bicycling, getting himself warm and then calming down afterwards and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, you know, but everybody's different, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
You know. like Danny Eslick was up the pub having a pint, like sort of thing, the night before until 2:00 we did. So, but it's just a different sort of person, totally.
I do like it. I tell you what, we've got a cracking question here from Michael Harrison. Who was your favourite teammate?
Teammate?
Yeah.
Favourite teammate?
There's no such thing.
No, there is. There is. No. Go on. I'll tell you what. This will get the juices flowing. Yeah. Who was the worst person you've ridden with? Someone that you just didn't want to pull up on the grid with.
Not as a teammate, but as a rider, Philip McCallan. Yeah,
that was quick. That was a quick answer.
I've got to think about it.
He's harsh.
He's etched in my memory. Don't worry. Anybody who rode with him will tell you the same.
There we are.
God, he was a nightmare. Yeah. Me and Ryan Falker had a bit of a dispute, shall we say, in 2003 at the Northwest. He passed me in middle of oil flags and whatever, and he got excluded and he got reinstated 6 months later and silly stuff, but we stopped talking for years, but we're fine now. We were fine, but it took about 6 years to
get the water under the bridge,
and I actually knocked him off here and we went down in the ambulance together because it was a right clatter, and but he was all right. He didn't say anything to me, and I thought, oh God, we'll end up fisticuffs here, but glad we didn't, because he's a lot bigger than me. But anyway, so me and Ryan had a lot of close riding, but we were always respectful, but whereas I can't say the same about Philip Callan.
No,
he would take the paint off your bike to earn 5 pence more, so
really,
yeah,
that's all right. Now that we've got the juices flowing, go on then. Who have you most respected in this sport? On track, someone you've raced.
It's got to be Steve Islop or somebody. Yeah, he was like the king, really. I think. Yeah, he could have gone on to, but he wanted to do again. He wanted to be. He won the British Championship twice, but before he even did that, he wanted to be a World Superbike rider. Like, he watched Fogarty.
He wanted
to get all the Honda rides. When he was just, because Steve was very, very good on the roads. Honda pushed him towards the roads and didn't give him rides on short circuits.
If you could change one thing about your career, what would that have been?
I think not to try to do too much in those early years. I was trying to, ride every bike, 4 bikes, and you just try to. You'd be better off concentrating on one bike, and that's what Steve Islop did in those early days, and he got taken up by Honda, sort of thing. And I tried to do too much on not having any money, and it was just So that's interesting. That was the answer. Yeah. I think,
Love it. Got another Patreon question?
Well, just to give a shout out to all the patrons, we've answered a lot of these, but just obviously everyone pops the questions in. Tony Rules is asking, how did you like the 2-stroke at the TT? Yeah. Ken O'Shea's got a great one here. He says, greetings from Ireland, like us.
You've left your bath running or something like that.
No, he says, do you think that Eddie Laycock is a bit underrated as a rider and now a team manager?
Absolutely, yeah. Eddie Laycock was unbelievable. I remember in 1990, that year, when I was doing the European Championships and all that, and we went to the Northwest, and I don't know what went wrong, something for me and Eddie in practice, and we started 22nd and 23rd on the grid, so we were a long way back, and pushed start, bump. Eddie was leading by the time he got the York hairpin and disappeared. He was like, you can look back on YouTube and stuff and see he wins both races the same. 23rd on the grid, wins both races by 100 metres. And there was probably about 12 of us all dicing and
trying to get there.
And I ended up having a good meet. I had second or third in the lap record. But Eddie was class. He got to the front, won both races. That's how class Eddie Laycock was. And we get on great now as, we speak to each other once a week because we just have so much crack. He's just funny, he's unbelievable. Yeah, he's brilliant.
That's very cool. But like I say, we've answered a lot of these, but just give everyone a shout out. We've got Luke Tim Gubbins from California. He's actually asking, what was your favourite bike to ride? We've never touched on that.
Oh, that's a good question. Right?
Well, the NSR 500 V Twin was great because you could really ride it, but it was difficult bike to ride. That one was, again, it would wheelie a lot. It was like a big motocross bike. It wasn't very fast, but it was, I got round quite quick on it, so the chassis must have been quite good on it. But it was a difficult bike. And I took over Joey's V Twin in 98 because he lost remember he crashed at the Tandraki and he'd lost his wedding finger. and he'd broken his collarbone, I think. And I was supposed to ride the 500, which McGuinness had, which was the Vimto one. He was going to ride it at Northwest. I was going to ride the TT. And when we got the TT, between Honda and Birdie, they said, "Oh, no, John's going to ride it." And John had that much experience then, believe it or not, at the TT. He's only his second or third year. And so it was all like, well, I'm supposed to ride it. And I got leathers made and everything, And in the end, it was, they said, well, you can ride Joey's if he doesn't want to ride it. So I spoke to Joey, and he said, I can barely ride, hang on to the 125, he said. But he did ride his 250 and won the wet, remember?
Yes, yeah.
So he won that race, which is amazing, really. But he said, no, and I take that thing. He hated riding it anyway. He didn't like riding it.
The big,
there's you like
500, yeah.
There's you going, cheers, mate.
Yeah. So I got it. I got the bike. He had the bike with him, but he didn't have the fairing. So the fairing was in Ireland, and when it came across, now these things were like £90,000 to buy off Honda. Anybody could buy one. They were 90 grand then.
90 grand.
So we got the bike, and he'd got there was a special chain size for it, and he'd put a 750 chain on it. So because they get a wide chain, he put the 750 tyre on it as well. So it was too wide. So he'd cut the edge of the tyre.
Shut up, man.
Like the edge of the tyre off, with a standing blade. And that's what we used to do on TZ350s back in the day. See, there's nothing wrong with it, but you lose that bit of grip right on the edge, So I ended up getting the bike anyway. So the fairings come over, and he painted them with an aerosol. So
a 90 grand bike.
Yeah, this thing was all full factory carbon. It was bloody funny, and it still had the newspaper inside to stop all the paint going through the holes, And so I ended up. It was Tuesday or Wednesday before I went out in it, and I couldn't believe how much I loved it, And we come in anyway, and I did 117, which wasn't bad at all. And my mechanic was with me. Actually had a real good aircraft mechanic then, and he said these power valves aren't working, so I was only getting 3/4 power. So then they ended up doing like 123 or something. But yeah, it was that was an interesting bike. But the Taz Suzuki in 2002, when I was teammates with David Jeffries, that was a good bike.
Yeah.
Like DJ ended up beating me by, I think it was 21 seconds in the end, in the senior. But he lapped 6 seconds, I think it was better than me in his last race. So not too bad really for a little fella.
Stuff. That's outstanding, never mind.
Yeah, and it was because we worked on the chassis, because of my smallness, should we say. You have to work on chassis more, it being smaller. I was talking to Mike Brown there earlier, and because he's riding the big bikes now, and you can't move yourself around. It's not just the weight. When you're, say, Dean Harrison or something, he's not heavy, but you can move, because he's taller, you can leverage to move around, move yourself forward, stop it wheeling. When you're small, you can't do that. So you have to work on setup much more. So I was used to work on the first race, first superbike race, more, and then maybe finish 4th, 5th, 6th or something. But then in the senior, I'd be ready, using it as practice, really.
Yeah.
And then for the next race, So that Taz Suzuki was a really good bike. Following year, that was a nice bike to ride, was ex-Colin Edwards SP2. That was a full factory thing, that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had the wrong tyres on it, should we say, and it just kept jacking itself up in on the back end, and it would just sort of do that all the way, for you had to keep shutting it off and on again, and it was a hard work, We eventually ended up putting Pirellis on it, and it was okay, but by that stage I was going into the race the next morning, and we weren't brave enough to put it back to the things that would change direction better. So, but yeah, that was. I remember DJ looking at it, that practice week, and he was looking at it going, "Oh, full factory." He was like dribbling, like, because it was a proper full factory bike, like, nice thing. Which had won the world championship with Colin Edwards the year before. So.
Of course it did, yeah.
So yeah. Lots of nice bikes out there.
But I tell you what, well before we wrap up, let's talk about the 2024 season. What are your plans from? This is like round 1, Spring Cup, Oliver's Mount.
Yeah.
So what's the plans for your team for the remainder of the season?
Yeah, we're not doing masses amount of. We're doing one BSB with a Japanese rider called Hikari Okubo.
I could not pronounce that if I say it. If you ask me now, pronounce that, Dominic, I'll just walk out the studio, tell you now.
Yeah, he's a good rider, and he's actually riding in the World Supersport this year on the Kawasaki, but he finished 5th in the world about 5 years ago.
Well, you could pedal a bike then.
Yeah, he's a good rider. So he's going to ride the Honda, so that'll be interesting to do that. That's the next meeting. Then we got the TT.
No Northwest?
No Northwest. You're not doing Northwest yet. Just a bit fed up with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
The politics and everything, and just to have a year off, We were going to go to Hengelo, but that's sort of fallen through now. Hengelo in Holland.
Yeah, I think a few teams are going to that event rather than the Northwest.
I did it. The last time I did it was 30 years ago. So, so that's a real good event, but that fell through anyway, so we're not doing that. So then we're doing the TT with 5 riders. Or twins and 600.
Do you just not wake up and go, I just need a bit more stress? I just let's just wind it on a little bit more.
All on twins, so it's not so bad. It's just, and then we're doing the Manx again with 3 riders, Scarborough, Southern 100. So we got various things to do, but we're not doing much PSP anymore,
Yeah.
It gets a bit stressful, that PSP job,
Are you sorry
as well, isn't it?
Sorry for interrupting, but are you still got the most wins for the Southern as well?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
We've got bloody royalty sitting here, you know what I mean? It's bloody impressive. So are you back? Did you say you're back at the Southern?
I'm not riding myself. No.
Right.
I've just got Joe Yeardsley.
Right.
And Jack Foley, who's riding for us here.
Yep.
And maybe Anthony O'Carroll, who's going to ride for us at the Manx as well.
Fantastic. No, for all your your super fan base, the Ian Lougher fan base, are you back at the Classic TT yourself?
Yes, I'm riding the 250 Freddie Laycock, so Laycock Racing this time. So it should be good. I'm looking forward to that.
And is Mike riding the other one?
He's riding the other one, yeah. Yeah, so 2 of us.
Oh, we kind of glazed over. What did you make the Macau? You obviously did the Macau. Did he ever win the Macau?
No. I rode it 10 or 11 times. I finished 4th was my best. But I never liked it. No, it's dangerous, really dangerous. And it was in a time as well where, the biggest, the first time I went there, I thought 96 it was. And I thought I rode a Ducati and it kept breaking down as well. And I thought, why do people come here? It was because the trip to Thailand afterwards is 12 days, which was really nice. I love Thailand. I like the people and it's really nice. But Macau, I dread riding around it. It was awful. And everybody, like McGuinness or Rutter, they used to say, what's the matter with it? It's great. See, you've seen if you missed the steel Armco barrier and you bounced, you just hit a block of flats.
Yep.
There's nothing else to soft to it. It's crackers, and they were all putting qualifiers on in those days.
Going for it, yeah.
Yeah, it's mad. It is a mad place, and for me, it's all right, but...
No.
Yeah, I know.
But you've been there, you've done it, you've got the T-shirt, absolutely love it. But I tell you what, I think that is an absolute perfect time to wrap. Honestly, I could genuinely sit here and just ask millions of questions. I just want to find somewhere I'm going to dump in a field with a head torch now. That's my ambition in life, and just do an Ian Lougher on them. But no, Ian, honestly, thank you so much for taking the time.
No, thank you. I've enjoyed it. It's been good.
And obviously, I really wanted to beat him. I know it's his first time here, but I really wanted to beat him.
I think we can safely say that'll probably happen.
No, I love it, mate. But but Josh, more importantly, good luck for tomorrow, son.
Hi, thanks. Looking forward to it. Thanks to Andy and the Oliver's Mount Racing crew as well for sorting it out and obviously sponsoring the episode. And I'm excited. I'm going to try and get a cheeky lap in the van here because I've been coming here. Actually, I've been coming here since I was riding 125s for Replicast, and I used to push your bike up to for you to hop on it because you were riding everything then.
Yeah, for Gary, yeah.
And just used to sit on the wall and be like, and with me dad going, you're never riding here. So I've had to wait all these years, but I'm excited. Yeah,
you'll enjoy it. Yeah.
This is Ian's opportunity to say thank you for all that hard work of pushing his bike.
Yeah,
because if you give him a lift, down to the paddock, he'll take you for a lap. Mind you, he's an electric go-kart, so it'll be nice and quiet. Right, okay. He'll be able to hear every tip all the way down. But this is the price of the show. You've got to pay the price, pay the toll. But obviously, on that side of things, this show wouldn't exist without OMG Racing, Bennetts Bike Insurance, JCT Truck and Trailer Hire. The patrons go without saying, please sign up. Keep Grace happy, because she loves a patron, that girl. I'm telling you that for now. And bear in mind that we're kind of been sitting here quite like, look, she's actually sat in on this show, so I'm feeling like I've got to be on my best behaviour.
The pressure is real when she's in that chair, isn't it?
You know what I mean? It's just like we've even got her a proper, like, we've got the Studio Mark II. We've been discussing behind the scenes as well. And not Mark II, obviously, we're trying to keep this to the best we can. Whilst we've got the gaffer in the show, it's a bit of an opportunity to talk about the product. She's here all weekend with Kate. I'm looking at her, Katie. Yep, her and Katie are here working the weekend up here. So thank you so much to Oliver's Mount for letting us be up here. We're going to be selling merch, and that merch, this is very specific. You can hear the rattle on the show here. Is very, very specific. Grace was very, very adamant. These are 4, 5, 6, I'm going to keep saying numbers till she nods, like 10 times better, ladies and gentlemen, in snoods wise. So we've got snoods, we've got baseball caps, we've got bobble hats. This is like a game of charades, you know, when you do the movie and everything like that.
The travel cups.
We've got the mugs, we've got, no, but seriously, everyone go online, look at Chasin the Racin, obviously get yourself on Spotify, like, subscribe, leave your comments, good or bad, it's all good for their algorithm. I love it. And but please, you know, just support the pod that we are giving to you. But yeah, enough of my rambling. Ian, thank you very much, sir.
Yeah,
and you
thanks
good
very
luck.
much.
And,
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, okay, thanks. No, I enjoyed it. It's been good crack.
Good man. We're paying him for that. It's going to cost us a fortune. Happy days. But hey, everyone listen, thank you so much, and we'll catch you soon. See you in a bit.
Cheers.